Chapter 1243. Translator, H2DH2 Mr. After collecting the Xianming flood dragon's blood, Du Xiaofu continued digging up bones, extracting the dragon's tendons, and collecting scales. These were all treasures. None of the surrounding demonic beasts dared to approach. They could only watch in fear. More and more demonic beasts gathered. Some of the demonic beasts did not know what was going on and could only watch curiously. However, when they saw such a huge flood dragon being skinned alive, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. After tidying everything up, Du Xiaofu finally smiled as he gazed at the enormous Xianming demon dragon corpse in front of him and softly muttered, "Don't waste it. Eat it, it's a tonic." Du Xiaofu didn't want to waste the flood dragon's meat. The flesh of a transcendent Xianming flood dragon was comparable to extraordinary spiritual medicines. His golden rock technique could directly refine it and use it for his own benefit. Thus, Du Xiaofu directly cut off several large chunks of the flood dragon's meat and cleaned the bones. After washing them clean under the waterfall, he searched his body for a long time and finally found a medicinal cauldron. Stewing the flood dragon soup with ease, Du Xiaofu set it up on the barbecue table and prepared to roast the flood dragon's meat. The medicinal cauldron in Du Xiaofu's Qiankuan pouch had already been reduced to ashes by the earth-shattering thunder. This medicinal cauldron was something Du Xiaofu had found outside the beast region. He'd found it in quite a few Qiankuan pouches. Savage, too savage. Seeing Du Xiaofu not only skinned the Xianming flood dragon alive, but also prepared to roast its meat, the surrounding demonic beasts went from fear to terror. Some of them even began to flee, afraid that the purple-robed youth would take a fancy to their meat on a whim. The purple-flame demonic phoenix had long since landed on a rock far away from the other demonic beasts. Its eyes were fixed on Du Xiaofu. Occasionally, there would be a ripple in its gaze before it returned to normal. Whoosh whoosh, suddenly, just as Du Xiaofu was about to start cooking the stew and roasting the meat, the sound of wind breaking suddenly came from the front, and a large number of extremely powerful auras came over. Roar, amidst the sound of wind breaking, there were many low roars of beasts, and their auras were extremely powerful and shocking. The auras were so powerful that they seemed to want to freeze space. Wind and clouds immediately surged in half of the sky, and Du Xiaofu also raised his head and looked over. Thus, Du Xiaofu saw dozens of powerful demonic beasts floating in the air. Leading the pack was a strange tiger that was several feet in size, emitting a terrifying aura. There was also a towering human-shaped giant bear. Its body was no different from a giant, but its head was that of a bear, and its aura was powerful. Beside the two leading demonic beasts, there were many demonic beasts and battle servants. Their auras were also very vigorous. None of them were weak. Any one of them, if placed on Kyushu, would be enough to cause the clouds to move. My bear paw and tiger bone stew. When Du Xiaofu saw the bearman and the strange tiger, his eyes widened, and a sinister smile appeared on his face. Du Xiaofu had encountered these demonic beasts on his way here. When he happened to pass by, he happened to hear that the strange tiger and the bearman wanted to take him as a battle servant. When the strange tiger and the bearman appeared, their gazes swept over the surroundings. In the end, their gazes landed on Du Xiaofu, who was just about to start a fire to roast the meat. When they saw the skinless scaled dragon's corpse, the strange tiger and the bearman's eyes were filled with confusion. They didn't know what had happened, but they didn't pay it much attention. It's the fantasy tiger king and the violent bear king. When they saw the strange tiger and the bearman, many demonic beasts in the surroundings immediately cried out in alarm. Some demonic beasts were even more afraid of the strange tiger and the bearman than Du Xiaofu. The fantasy tiger king and the violent bear king were absolute giants of the beast region. Their names had shaken the entire beast region several hundred years ago. Although the fantasy tiger king and the violent bear king had cultivated for over 1,000 years, according to the beast's cultivation timeline, they could still be considered young adults. However, They'd recently broken through from the transcendental sovereign level to the sovereign of origin level. Rumor had it that the fantasy Tiger King was a member of the Fire Tiger bloodline. It was one of the top existences in the Tiger clan, only slightly inferior to the White Tiger bloodline. When the fantasy Tiger King was young, it accidentally ate a mysterious heavenly treasure. In the end, it mutated and gained the ability to use soul attacks. Its name spread throughout the clan, and it was difficult to find a match among demonic beasts of the same level. In the beast region, its name spread far and wide, and it became a powerhouse. The violent Bear King wasn't bad either. His true form was the violent earth-shattering bear, ranked near the top of the heavenly beast list. His bloodline was already very high. Rumor had it that he'd once received the legacy of an ancient bear expert, and obtained the Bear Clan's long-lost divine abilities. Among demonic beasts of the same level, he could dominate the world. It could be said that only the dragons, phoenixes, white tigers, black tortoises, and a few extremely rare pure-blooded demonic beasts of the primordial era could cause the fantasy Tiger King and the violent Bear King to fear them. As for demonic beasts of the beast region, even famous demonic beasts feared the fantasy Tiger King and the violent Bear King. Not good. That's the fantasy Tiger King and the violent Bear King. Little Falcon's eyes trembled. If it was afraid of the Xianming Flood Dragon, then it was absolutely terrified of the fantasy Tiger King and the violent Bear King. For better or for worse, Little Falcon was one of the kings of the beast region. However, it knew that compared to the fantasy Tiger King and the violent Bear King, it was nothing. The fantasy Tiger King and the savage Bear King were absolutely terrifying existences. Many of the Yao beasts following them were overlords of the beast region who weren't any weaker than them. Little Falcon couldn't help but worry for Du Xiaofu. However, it was also secretly delighted. The fantasy Tiger King and the violent Bear King had clearly come for that kid. If it could take care of him, it'd be free again. Let's do it. You've done me a huge favor. Thinking up to this point, Little Falcon couldn't help but feel a little excited. It hoped the fantasy Tiger King and the violent Bear King would attack as soon as possible. Were you the one who took the bones of my Tiger clan's ancestor? The fantasy Tiger King stared at Du Xiaofu and bared its fangs. Its aura was terrifying. Now it's mine. Du Xiaofu looked up at the fantasy Tiger King and nodded. He knew these demonic beasts had come prepared. They'd come looking for him on purpose. Du Xiaofu secretly probed the two demonic beasts' auras. They'd probably just broken through to the Sovereign of Origin not long ago. The Sovereign of Origin's level of cultivation was already terrifying. However, it wasn't enough to make Du Xiaofu fear them. When the fantasy Tiger King heard Du Xiaofu's words, his tone short and sharp, and his gaze completely devoid of fear, a trace of astonishment flashed through its eyes. Glancing at the nearby space-rending blade falcon that was riddled with wounds, the phantom Tiger King finally stared back at Du Xiaofu. Its voice was sharp and clear as it said, "Looks like you do have some strength. How about this? Hand over the secret bone and become my battle servant. Otherwise, your soul will be destroyed." You. Du Xiaofu looked up and pointed at the fantasy Tiger King. Then, he pointed at the fantasy Tiger King and the violent Bear King. He said indifferently, "And you? The two of you will follow me from now on and be my followers. Otherwise, I'll be eating tiger bone soup and bear paws today." Du Xiaofu's voice wasn't loud, but it reverberated far and wide. It was loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. As soon as Du Xiaofu's words came out, everyone was stunned. Many demonic beasts stared at Du Xiaofu, dumbfounded. They thought they'd heard wrong. Although the purple-robed youth had slaughtered the Xianming fiendish dragon, none of the demonic beasts present believed that the purple-robed youth still stood a chance against the fantasy Tiger King and the violent Bear King. However, he was still so bold and arrogant. This was clearly a provocation. "You want us to be your followers?" The violent Bear King stared straight at Du Xiaofu. His voice was so loud that it shook the space. He stared at Du Xiaofu with wide eyes, as if he thought he'd heard wrong. The violent Bear King stared at Du Xiaofu with eyes that were like whirlpools filled with runes. He gave off a violent aura that could distort space for no reason. The violent Bear King also had the aura of a king. Even if he just stood there quietly, he could make many demonic beasts tremble and submit to him. Not bad. The two of you are qualified to be my followers. Du Xiaofu looked up and nodded seriously. The two demonic beasts wanted to make him their battle servant. Now that they'd come looking for trouble, he couldn't let them go. Chapter 1244. Hearing Du Xiaofu's serious words and expression, the spiritual illusion Tiger King and the violent Bear King were stunned. Huh, what an ignorant and insignificant human. However, the spiritual illusion Tiger King laughed loudly after an instant. His laughter shook the air, and strange runes flickered in his tiger eyes. The spiritual illusion Tiger King's loud laughter sounded like a tiger's roar, causing many demonic beasts in the vicinity to be frightened. As the laughter reverberated, their hearts trembled violently, as if their souls were about to explode. All of you, go. Let that ignorant brat know where he is. The spiritual illusion Tiger King said to the many battle servants beside him. His tiger eyes were sinister, and his aura was terrifying. All of you, go as well. The violent Bear King waved his hand and gestured to the battle servants beside him. His aura surged, and he had the aura and majesty of a monster king. He looked very powerful. Whoosh whoosh. Following the spiritual illusion Tiger King and the violent Bear King's signal, a total of 16 battle servants flew out. The 16 auras were powerful, and they were all human experts. The youngest of the 16 battle servants looked to be in their 20s, while the oldest looked to be in their 40s. However, it was difficult to know how long they had cultivated. After a cultivator became a martial honorable or an 8-star talisman master, there would not be many changes to their appearance, unless they were cultivators who did not care about their appearance at all. For cultivators, in the world of cultivation, the strong were respected, and the weak were prey to the strong. Not many people cared about their appearance. Therefore, it was difficult to determine a cultivator's true age based on their appearance. However, they were all cultivators, and the stronger ones could roughly determine a cultivator's age based on their aura. At that moment, the 16 battle servants surrounding Du Xiaofu were all martial honorables, and the 4 strongest among them were extraordinary martial honorables. It could be said that these 16 battle servants alone were enough to form a powerful force in Kyushu. It was enough to show how powerful the spiritual illusion Tiger King and the violent Bear King were. Brat, surrender. A transcendent martial venerable battle servant, who looked to be in his 40s, pointed his spear at Du Xiaofu. His aura was sharp and arrogant, and he did not put Du Xiaofu in his eyes at all. Du Xiaofu raised his eyes slightly and glanced at the 16 battle servants in the surroundings who had vaguely trapped him. In the end, he looked directly at the spear-wielding battle servant leader. His face was cold and indifferent as he said, "Seeing that we're all humans, I'll give you a chance. Piss off. It's your business if you want to be battle servants, but if you provoke me, I don't mind destroying you." His voice wasn't loud, but it carried a ghastly coldness as it reverberated through the air. It was filled with an inexplicable sense of dominance. However, this sort of domineering and fierce feeling didn't feel the same when it entered the ears of the 16 battle servants. It immediately caused complicated expressions to appear on their faces, and then they became fierce and cold. Although they were battle servants, the battle servants of the spiritual illusion Tiger King and the violent Bear King were all extraordinary people, so they naturally had their own pride. They had the support of the spiritual illusion Tiger King and the violent Bear King's cultivation resources, so they did not take their peers seriously. After a few years, they would be able to leave and return to Kyushu, where they would sweep through everything and dominate the region. This was why they were willing to become battle servants. At this moment, facing the purple-robed young man's domineering and fierce manner, the pride in the hearts of these battle servants could not be provoked. After becoming battle servants, the thing they could not accept the most was the provocation and disregard of another human. It would provoke them for no reason. "Brat, you're courting death." The leading transcendent martial venerable was infuriated. His eyes shone with cold light as his face was filled with a ghastly expression, causing the surrounding temperature to plummet. Boom! When the ghastly words left his mouth, the spear in his hand trembled. Runes suddenly erupted, and a might that could tear through space shot out. The battle servant's figure shot through the air like lightning. He did not hold back his transcendent martial venerable aura at all. His spear was like a resplendent bolt of lightning as it swooped down from the sky. Everywhere it passed, space distorted, and faint traces of cracks appeared. In an instant, it directly pressed down on Du Xiaofu with an unparalleled might. The terrifying aura shook the surroundings. Just the might of the spear, which carried a faint demonic roar, was enough to shake one's soul. Without a doubt, the battle servant wanted to deal with the violet-robed young man in one move. He wanted to establish his might and prove his identity and strength as the #1 battle servant of the spiritual illusion Tiger King. Qi La. A terrifying might erupted, and resplendent energy runes covered the sky and earth. Everything happened in an instant. Under the gazes of many people, the transcendent martial venerable battle servant's resplendent spear was like a bolt of lightning as it pointed at the violet-robed young man's forehead. The spiritual illusion Tiger King and the ferocious Bear King were also watching this scene with interest. There was a faint smile in their eyes. Not far away, Little Falcon's eyes narrowed. Its expression was a little complicated, but more than that, it only wanted to escape. Moreover, Little Falcon seemed to have heard that the violet-robed young man was really a human. All the more it could not become a human's mount. Only the purple flame demonic phoenix, who was standing quietly in the distance, did not even take a second look. Qi La. The spear was pointed straight at Du Xiaofu. A pitch-black light appeared in the space before the tip of the spear. It tore through space and was already close to Du Xiaofu's forehead. At this moment, many people could not help but gasp for Du Xiaofu. However, at this moment, all the demonic beasts raised their eyebrows slightly. Their pupils could not help but constrict as if they had seen the most unbelievable thing. Right at this moment, everyone noticed to their astonishment that for some unknown reason, the tip of the spear that flashed before the violet-robed young man's forehead had suddenly frozen on the spot. It was like even time and space had stopped, and it was unable to advance another inch. However, the violet-robed young man did not move at all. Even his robes did not flutter in the slightest. The violet-robed young man stood proudly on the ground like a boulder. How domineering and disdainful. Soon after, the purple-robed young man moved. He waved his arm and raised his hand. His expression was indifferent. Although he appeared to be moving slowly, he was actually as fast as lightning. His hand gently extended from within his purple long sleeves. After which, it gently landed on the handle of the spear behind the tip of the spear, which was emitting resplendent symbols. He gently held it. It's a pretty good weapon. However, the person using it is a little too weak. Let's bury it. Du Xiaofu spoke. Suddenly, a golden light shot out from his eyes. Golden light also surged out from the palm that held the spear handle. Like an electric current, it suddenly spread across the spear and suppressed the terrifying aura and resplendent runes that had exploded from the spear. Not good. At this moment, the transcendent martial honorable battle servant seemed to have sensed something. His expression changed drastically, and it was as if he had fallen from heaven to hell. Then, under the astonishment of the transcendent martial honorable battle servant, the elementary grade weapon in his hand, which was a precious treasure given to him by the spiritual fantasy Tiger King, was forcefully taken away by the other party. He was powerless to control or stop all of this. The spear in his hand had directly landed in the other party's hand. It was as if he had lost contact with it. Not good, quickly attack together. The expressions of the remaining 15 battle servants changed drastically. The 3 transcendent martial honorable battle servants, who were also the leaders, shouted loudly. In an instant, they all rushed out together. Their auras exploded as they activated their martial techniques and weapons. 15 terrifying attacks shot towards Du Xiaofu like lightning. Among them, the attacks of the other 3 transcendent martial honorable battle servants were able to distort the void, shake the mountains and rivers, and cause lightning to flash and thunder to rumble in the sky. The wind and clouds changed color. They were powerful and terrifying. The 15 figures rushed down to attack like 15 thunderbolts falling from the sky. The terrifying resplendent runes flickered and dazzled the eyes. Their auras exploded in the air, causing one's heart to tremble in fear. Bang! Du Xiaofu grabbed the spear with his right hand. Suddenly, strange runes flickered in his eyes. At the same time, his left fist, which was covered in golden light, shot up into the sky like a ghost. It landed directly on the chest of the transcendent martial honorable battle servant who was holding the spear, who was unable to react in time. At this moment, for some unknown reason, the former's eyes were lifeless. Then, under the punch, golden light poured into his body and his body exploded into a bloody mist. Kill! Du Xiaofu raised his head and shouted angrily. When the former's body exploded into a bloody mist, Du Xiaofu stomped his foot and rose from the ground. The golden light behind him exploded like the rising sun. A pair of golden wings spread out and he soared into the sky. Chapter 1245. At this moment, a terrifying aura suddenly swept out from Du Xiaofu's body. The golden light in his eyes was like 2 golden thunderbolts that shot into the sky. A terrifying aura swept out from his body, causing the entire hall to shake violently. The golden wings on his back shone brilliantly like a rock spreading its wings, shaking the 9 heavens. Boom! A shocking muffled sound of energy reverberated through the canyon like thunder. The golden wings on Du Xiaofu's back flapped open, and the air current whizzed out with a terrifying aura. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was like a real golden-winged rock descending, carrying the domineering will of the golden-winged rock race. Bang, 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 a terrifying golden light burst forth, and the domineering energy was like a suppressed volcano erupting into the sky. It was like the rising sun, endless and dazzling the entire area. Under the impact of the golden-winged rock's aura, the attacks of the 16 battle servants that were diving down were instantly drowned and shattered. Bang, 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 then, as the 16 battle servants swooped down, their pupils suddenly constricted, and fear appeared in their eyes. Then, starting from the weaker ones, their bodies exploded one after another. Under the golden-winged rock's aura, the 16 battle servants did not even have the ability to resist. Even their transcendent martial venerable's cultivation was not enough. Flapping his wings, Du Xiaofu's body proudly stepped into the sky. Below him, a bloody mist poured down, and golden light filled the sky, illuminating it as if the sun had descended. Roar! Under this terrifying aura, all the ferocious birds and beasts in the surroundings felt such a terrifying and domineering aura that came from their souls and bloodlines. All of them screamed and roared, and their bodies prostrated themselves. What a powerful aura! How can this be a human? This is the aura of the golden-winged rock, a supreme existence. The little falcon, who was originally waiting to reap the benefits, was now filled with horror, and its body could not help but tremble and prostrate. As a bird, it was even more difficult to resist the golden-winged rock's aura. Golden rays of light overflowed and lingered around Du Xiaofu's body like ribbons. They were profound and beautiful. The golden ping wings on his back expanded slightly, emitting the aura of a supreme being. Du Xiaofu's eyes flashed with golden lightning as he stared at the phantom Tiger King and the violent Bear King. He exuded a supreme aura like a human-shaped golden-winged rock. You big cat and bear have angered me. At this moment, the spiritual Tiger King and the violent Bear King were still dumbfounded and had yet to recover from their shock. 16 powerful battle servants were actually killed just like that. It was simply as easy as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood, sweeping through everything. This made them tremble with fear. Upon hearing Du Xiaofu's shout, the fantasy Tiger King and the violent Bear King regained their senses. That seems to be the aura of the golden-winged great rocks. Looking at the purple-robed young man who was releasing the pressure of a supreme being, the illusion Tiger King's heart trembled. That aura was too powerful. That fellow's strength was actually so terrifying. But that brat seems to be human. The violent Bear King was puzzled. He was a venerable origin beast and was no weakling. Although he was shocked, he was also puzzled. I understand now. It's the golden pin wings. That brat stole the wings of the golden-winged great rocks from who knows where and even fused them together. If the golden-winged great rocks find out, they definitely won't let that brat off. The fantasy Tiger King stared closely at the golden pin wings on Du Xiaofu's back. Sensing Du Xiaofu's aura, he more or less understood what was going on. The golden-winged great rocks were extremely domineering. They were a supreme beast race. Although the Qilins, dragons, and phoenixes were said to be the supreme beasts of the beast race, it was rumored that the golden-winged great rocks had existed long before the tribulations of the three races. There were also many ancient beast races that hadn't participated in the tribulations of the three races. They had been passed down since ancient times, but their numbers were extremely small. As for the golden-winged great rocks, how could they possibly allow a puny human to obtain their wings? So that's how it is. If we capture that brat and hand him over to the golden-winged great rocks, we might be able to benefit from it. The violent Bear King said to the fantasy Tiger King. The golden-winged great rocks had never been active in the beast region, so it was difficult for any other race to establish a relationship with them. However, no one in the beast region doubted the golden-winged great rocks' power or their status as the supreme Yao beast race. If anyone could establish a relationship with a golden-winged great rocks, they could easily imagine the benefits. In the future, they might even be able to do as they pleased in the beast region. The fantasy Tiger King glanced at the violent Bear King and immediately understood. The purple-robed human before them had a pair of golden pin wings. If they handed him over to the golden-winged great rocks, they'd be able to obtain benefits and establish a relationship with them. However, the fantasy Tiger King frowned inwardly. That brat's cultivation wasn't weak. He definitely wouldn't be easy to deal with. Brat, you killed my battle servant. You're dead meat. But at that moment, the violent Bear King was the first to roar. He strode forward, his berserk aura erupting from him, causing the surrounding space to tremble. The Sovereign of Origin. Rumor has it that the violent Bear King obtained the ancient Bear King's violent strength divine ability. Its boundless strength and impenetrable defense. Little Falcon's eyes trembled when he saw the violent Bear King's instantaneous attack. Boom! As expected, the wild Bear King used his full strength right from the start. The Origin Beast Sovereign's aura poured out without holding back at all. His body was wrapped in resplendent runes, making him look like a giant. His fist was like a meteor, exploding through space and suddenly slamming towards Du Xiaofu. The violent Bear King's attack was incomparably ferocious. It definitely wasn't something the previous transcendent martial sovereign battle servants could compare to. They weren't even on the same level. As Yao beasts, their true strength was much greater than that of human cultivators. The violent Bear King was definitely one of the top Yao beasts of the same level as Yao beasts. Hence, when the violent Bear King attacked, the Sovereign of Origin's cultivation level was comparable to that of a human cultivator at the peak of perfect martial venerable. In addition to the violent Bear King's powerful physical body and divine ability, it was probably enough to face off against a Nirvana martial venerable. The violent Bear King attacked, his fist distorting the void. The terrifying aura before his fist crushed the void, causing deep sonic booms. It was actually violent and domineering. Facing Du Xiaofu, who was not a true golden-winged roc, but a human, the violent Bear King immediately despised him from the bottom of his heart. He wanted to use his violent strength and powerful physical body to suppress the human with one punch. He wanted to crush him with an unstoppable force. However, the violent Bear King didn't know who it was facing right now. Facing the violent Bear King's punch, Du Xiaofu wasn't afraid at all. Instead of retreating, Du Xiaofu suddenly raised his arm. His fist wasn't wrapped in golden light, but purple lightning. It surged violently, ferociously, and accurately. It directly collided with the violent Bear King's huge fist. Boom! Instantly, rune lightning was released and shot in all directions. Roar! However, at the same time, some of the demonic beasts thought that the purple-robed young man would be blown away by the violent Bear King's punch. However, when they saw the violent Bear King, they let out a miserable cry and retracted their fists as if they were shocked by lightning. However, it was too late. The violent Bear King's fist had been charred black by the lightning. The most serious part was that the back of the bear's paw was cracked, and blood was flowing out. It was in excruciating pain, and its huge body was spinning in the air. It was miserable. This scene made everyone's jaws drop. Everyone knew how strong the violent Bear King's body was, but no one had expected the violent Bear King to be beaten up like this. However, some Yao beasts could understand it after seeing the Xianming demonic dragon, which was a peak transcendent beast venerable, being beaten up so miserably. Du Xiaofu sneered maliciously after his successful attack. Taking advantage of his opponent's weakness had always been Du Xiaofu's style. With a flap of his wings, Du Xiaofu instantly appeared in front of the violent Bear King like a ghost. Xiaoyang seal. Golden light burst out. It was extremely domineering like the sun, and it instantly engulfed the violent Bear King's chest, who was caught off guard. Bang! When the deep sonic boom resounded, the violent Bear King spat out a mouthful of blood. Its body immediately fell from the sky and landed heavily in the broken valley below. The earth shook, the mountain shook, and the ground cracked. Gravel shot out. Chapter 1246. All the Yao beasts were dumbfounded. Even the little falcon's eyes twitched. The spiritual Tiger King had long since rushed over, but when it saw what had happened to the violent Bear King, its eyes trembled. The spiritual Tiger King didn't think that it was that much stronger than the violent Bear King. Moreover, even with the violent Bear King's powerful defense, it had been ravaged to such an extent. One could only imagine how terrifying the purple-robed human youth was. Not good. The fantasy Tiger King cursed inwardly. Then, it turned around and fled. Du Xiaofu had already intimidated it. Big cat, you still want to leave? Du Xiaofu had his eyes on the spiritual Tiger King from the start. How could he let it leave? He immediately pounced on the spiritual Tiger King, his powerful aura suppressing and sealing the space. Humph, you really think you can deal with me? The spiritual Tiger King roared at the same time, its eyes glaring. Runes erupted from its body, and it instantly transformed into a terrifying tiger nearly 10,000 feet long. Demonic fire protection, spiritual killing eyes. The spiritual Tiger King's body glowed as it activated its demonic fire. In the end, it turned into a strange, terrifying demonic fire that enveloped its body. At the same time, the spiritual Tiger King's eyes rippled with strange runes. They were like two black holes that wanted to devour a person's yuan spirit. It was a terrifying sight. Roar! The spirit fantasy Tiger King was attacking with all the power he could muster. Demonic flames sprang up around him, causing the air to distort and distort. Down below, the demonic beast's skin burned, and its eyes flickered with strange light. At the same time, its tiger claws ripped through the air as it pounced toward Du Xiaofu, filled with the might of a tiger king. You want to play with Yuan's spirit attacks in front of me? Fine, I'll play with you. Profound soul eye. Du Xiaofu shouted, and the strange runes in his eyes shot out. His aura caused the hearts of those who saw it to tremble. They contained a silver-yellow lightning that was domineering and destructive, striking fear into the hearts of those who saw them. They directly repelled the illusion Tiger King's strange gaze, causing it to be affected instead. At the same time, Du Xiaofu pushed out a silver-white palm print that was as bright as the moon and collided with the tiger claw. Lunar Seal. Du Xiaofu's resplendent silvery-white energy palm print, along with a nearly materialized silvery-white violent energy of the world, was suffused with a strange silvery-white rune, as though it was shrouded in layers of silvery-white lightning. With a lightning-like speed, it instantly collided with the huge tiger claw, like a sandstone colliding with a meteorite. This collision caused an explosion that shook the heavens and earth to resound from the point of impact, rumble. Such a collision caused the surrounding space to collapse, and a low rumbling sound reverberated without end. The ground below was shaken to the point that it was like an earthquake. Roar! Then, everyone watched in shock as the illusion Tiger King let out a pained cry. Its tiger claw retracted as if it had been electrocuted. Blood dripped from the tiger's claw. The indestructible tiger claw was actually drenched in blood, and the huge tiger's body was sent flying backwards. Stormy Wave Palm. Du Xiaofu charged out again, his entire body enveloped in golden light. He spread his wings and swooped down like a great rock, bringing with it the sound of wind and thunder as he struck out with his palm. In an instant, the earth-shattering celestial chi energy in front of this palm seemed to cause a raging wave to appear in the air. It swept over the illusion Tiger King's body, drowning it within. With Du Xiaofu's current cultivation, using the stormy wave palm felt completely different. Its power was like the difference between heaven and earth. Under such a terrifying attack, the illusion Tiger King didn't even have time to react before it was swept away by Du Xiaofu's ferocious attack. Golden runes and celestial chi waves blasted the illusion Tiger King to the ground. Its huge tiger body coughed up blood as it fell, causing the ground to shake. Roar! The raging Bear King roared furiously, its aura soaring to the heavens. The raging Bear King, who had just fallen to the ground, climbed to its feet. At this moment, the runes exploded, and its body rose from the ground, transforming into its original body that was dozens of feet tall. It was like a giant between heaven and earth, its muscles bulging like giant pythons coiling around its body. This was the raging Bear King's original body, the berserk earth-shattering bear. Its aura was terrifying, and it was one of the top beasts on the heavenly beast list. Moreover, the raging Bear King was a top genius of the berserk earth-shattering bear clan. It had obtained the ancient Bear King's berserk strength, which gave it boundless strength and indestructible defense. Bastard, I'm going to tear you apart alive. The raging Bear King was enraged. When had it ever been trampled on like this? This was a humiliation to it. It immediately unleashed its might, runes exploding as it activated its berserk strength. Divine power surged, and its huge bear paw was like a heavenly pillar. A terrifying shockwave erupted from its body, and the runes turned into a tide, sweeping up hundreds of spatial ripples as it furiously slapped at Du Xiaofu. At this moment, the raging Bear King was going all out, activating its berserk strength. Under this furious slap and its huge paw, even an ordinary peak chaotic element martial venerable would spit out blood if they didn't die. This emperor wants to eat bear paws today. Du Xiaofu roared and did not retreat. His hand seals quickly condensed, and a vigorous and surging aura suddenly soared into the sky. He directly punched out, and at this moment, he was using the tyrannical fist way. Roar! This punch had the roar of a dragon and the cry of a divine elephant. It was accompanied by lightning and thunder in the sky, and the void in front of the punch exploded. This punch was also Du Xiaofu's ultimate physical strength. Its aura was incomparably domineering, and it looked down on everything. The seemingly small punch collided with the huge tiger's paw. Immediately, the terrifying rune ripples swept through the void like a tsunami, causing the entire void to shake violently. Rumble. A formless, domineering aura shook the void, and it was as if thunder was rumbling between heaven and earth. Monstrous energy instantly erupted. Roar, the raging bear king's huge body was then forced back. With every step it took, its huge paw would land on the ground and shatter the ground, causing it to cry out in pain again. At this moment, the raging bear king's huge paw was already cracked, and blood was pouring out. Du Xiaofu's punch had shattered the thick paw, and it was dripping with blood. Even the bones were almost exposed. "You're quite good at taking a beating." Du Xiaofu was rather surprised. He was well aware of his current strength. With the strength of his physical body, he could activate the tyrannical fist path and utilize the extreme strength of his physical body. This was enough to kill a peak primordial chaos martial venerable. However, he had only managed to slightly injure the berserk earth-shattering bear. The raging earth-shattering bear king seemed to be dripping with blood, but Du Xiaofu knew in his heart that the injury was not too serious. "Continue!" Du Xiaofu yelled. Then, his eyes lit up as he saw a towering tree on the cliff below. It was at least 100 feet tall, and it would take dozens of people to wrap their arms around it. Immediately, Du Xiaofu's figure flashed down. His hands were covered in golden light, and his 5 fingers curled into the giant tree. Runes enveloped the giant tree, and an overbearing aura erupted. Amidst the rumbling of the cliff, the giant tree was uprooted. With the strength to uproot mountains and rivers, he lifted the giant tree high up and threw it at the raging bear king. Boom! The pitiful raging bear king was smashed by the giant tree before it could stop its decline. Its huge body was hit and fell to the ground. Run! At this moment, the spiritual tiger king, who had just gotten up, did not hesitate at all. As soon as it got up, it wanted to escape. It did not dare to stay any longer. This human was too cruel. "Big cat, where do you think you're going?" How could Du Xiaofu let the spiritual tiger king go so easily? The wings on his back flapped, and his figure fluttered like a god. Golden runes spread out, and he soared into the sky like a real golden-winged rock. His speed was much faster than the spiritual tiger king's. "Come back!" As fast as lightning, like a golden rainbow, Du Xiaofu pounced forward and grabbed the spiritual tiger king's tail, which was as thick as a bowl, in his hand. The spiritual tiger king's huge body stopped in midair. Roar! The spiritual tiger king was shocked. It roared like thunder, and runes burst out. The origin beast sovereign's aura erupted like a tornado, trying to break free from Du Xiaofu's grip and escape. "Where are you going?" "Behave!" Du Xiaofu roared. Golden light burst out, and the rock wings on his back flapped. Violent lightning surged out of his palm and poured down on the spiritual tiger king's body. Crackle, the power of thunder and lightning poured out in torrents. Under the great violent aura, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. The rumbling sound of thunder lingered in the ears, shaking the souls of those who heard it. At this moment, the spiritual tiger king was in a pitiful state. Under the close contact of the violent lightning, the spiritual tiger king's entire body trembled. The spiritual tiger king's defense could not withstand Du Xiaofu's lightning at all. Its hair stood on end, and its body trembled like a hedgehog. It screamed in pain, and its voice trembled. "Come back!" Du Xiaofu roared again. The rock spread its wings, and a terrifying power burst out. At the same time, he stomped on the air, and the space shook. Like a supreme demon king, he leaned back slightly and pulled the spiritual tiger king's tail, throwing it over his shoulder. In that instant, Du Xiaofu had actually flung the spiritual fantasy tiger king's enormous body in a crescent arc through the air, directly flinging it behind him. Wah, seeing this, the eyes of the surrounding demonic beasts widened, and they all cried out in shock. They could not close their mouths for a long time. At this moment, the wild bear king behind him had just crawled up again. Before it could react, a huge object fell from the sky like a meteor. It erupted with runes and descended from the sky. It was the phantom tiger king's body. Du Xiaofu had grabbed it by its tail and thrown it over his shoulder, throwing it directly towards the wild bear king. Du Xiaofu had done this on purpose. Bang bang. Two loud sounds rang out, and the runes shattered. The poor spiritual bear king had just gotten up when it was smashed for the third time. The two huge demonic beasts overlapped, and the ground shook. Roar! The two demonic beasts spat out blood from their mouths. They were dizzy from the impact, and their bodies were in extreme pain. Chapter 1247. Bloodthirsty Demon King Rock descends to the 9 heavens. Du Xiaofu's golden rock wings spread out behind him. Dazzling golden light shone as he landed on the spiritual tiger king's body. His domineering power crushed the spiritual tiger king and the violent bear king's bodies. Roar! A terrifying aura swept out, carrying the domineering will of the golden rock. The surrounding beasts screamed and fell to the ground. The bloodline and primordial spirits all trembled under the immense pressure. Roar! The spiritual tiger king and the violent bear king roared at the same time, struggling with all their might to break free from Du Xiaofu's suppression. Behave yourselves! Du Xiaofu shouted. As he activated the rock descends to the 9 heavens, purple lightning surged out of his body, surging onto the spiritual tiger king and the violent bear king's body. As a result, Du Xiaofu's fist, which was wrapped in purple lightning runes, also carried a great amount of violent power as it rained down like a storm. Bang, bang, bang. The dull sounds were like thunder. Dark clouds gathered under the power of lightning, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. Du Xiaofu's fists rained down on the spiritual fantasy tiger king's back like a thunderstorm. The thunderbolts didn't forget about the spiritual fantasy tiger king either, and continued to bombard it. Roar! The pitiful spiritual tiger king and the violent bear king roared miserably. Even though their bodies were tough, they couldn't withstand Du Xiaofu's violent attacks. After a few blows, the two beasts' defenses were completely destroyed by Du Xiaofu. Their flesh was torn open, and blood flowed everywhere. It was a tragic sight. With each punch of Du Xiaofu's landing, a piece of flesh and blood was sent flying. The pitiful violent bear king and spiritual tiger king's auras grew weaker and weaker until they were completely exhausted. All the surrounding Yao beasts stared with wide, ferocious eyes. Aside from the surging winds and roaring thunder, there was no other sound. Even space seemed to freeze. Little Falcon was already in a daze as he stared at the scene before him in shock. The purple-robed young man's fists rained down like rain as he pummeled the illusion tiger king and the violent bear king. How shocking was that? The purple flame demonic phoenix looked at the scene in front of her from afar. There were some ripples in her beautiful purple eyes. Now, do you want to be my Yao Beast King? Du Xiaofu Dragon King, Du Xiaofu asked. The spiritual tiger king and violent bear king were already on the verge of death. Their last breath, they were extremely withered. At this moment, even if Du Xiaofu released them, they would no longer be able to fight. Kid, you dream. The fantasy tiger king and the violent bear king said in unison. They were famous kings of the beast region. How could they possibly lower themselves to become a human's lackey? It was as if he was their battle servant. Their prideful bloodlines and arrogance wouldn't allow them to do so. You don't want to? Then I'll just kill you. As soon as Du Xiaofu Dragon King spoke, he threw another 2 punches. Blood sprayed from the spiritual tiger king and violent bear king's bodies. They howled in pain once more. Kid, this is the beast region. If you dare touch us, you won't be able to leave the beast region. All the experts of the beast region will grind your bones to dust. The spiritual Tiger King howled in anger. It seemed he had something to rely on. This was the beast region. Putting aside the fact that he and the violent Bear King had the tigers and bears behind them, if that human youth really dared to kill them, then even the experts of the entire beast region wouldn't let him off the hook. It was just like in Kyushu. If a Yao expert from the beast region charged into Kyushu's territory and killed a representative of Kyushu, then even the experts of the other factions would surround and annihilate him. After all, this concerned the dignity of both races. It would incur the wrath of the masses. If a human killed 2 beast kings in the beast region and left without a second thought, the entire beast region would lose face. If a Yao expert killed a human expert in Kyushu and left, then the Kyushu would lose face. You dare threaten me? However, Du Xiaofu was never one to be threatened. When he saw that the illusion Tiger King still dared to threaten him, he immediately sent out a few more punches, causing the illusion Tiger King and violent Bear King to roar and cry out in pain. They were already on the verge of death. Swoosh swoosh. After another barrage of punches, Du Xiaofu formed hand seals. Several hand seals landed on the phantom Tiger King and the violent Bear King's enormous bodies, trapping them. As the seals fell, the spiritual Tiger King and violent Bear King's enormous bodies shrank down to only a few dozen feet tall. That was their normal size. It's a bit of a waste to kill you like this. I can't bear to do that. Du Xiaofu stood in front of the 2 beasts, a serious smile on his face. Then, under the gazes of the countless frozen Yao beasts, Du Xiaofu pulled out a sharp scimitar out of nowhere and sent several beams of light towards them. Roar roar. When the beams of light landed, the restrained violent Bear King and spiritual Tiger King suddenly let out pained roars that pierced the heavens and shook heaven and earth. Their mournful agony filled the air. All the Yao beasts were shocked. The pitiful violent Bear King's paw had 12 pounds of meat shaved off. The spiritual Tiger King was even more miserable. No less than 15 pounds of meat on its buttocks had been cut off by Du Xiaofu without hesitation. Du Xiaofu didn't let go of the bear blood and tiger blood. He summoned another cauldron and collected a large amount of the bear and tiger blood into the cauldron. The cauldron was filled to the brim with runes, and the blood was filled with violent energy. This is a great tonic. Don't waste it. Du Xiaofu raised the cauldron and gulped down the bear and tiger blood. Gurgling sounds came from his throat, and after a while, he finished the 2 cauldrons of blood without leaving a single drop behind. With his mouth full of blood and runes flickering in his throat, Du Xiaofu licked the corner of his mouth, as if he hadn't had enough yet. He looked like a real demon king for no reason. Oh my god, that's too cruel. Is that guy a human or a Yao beast? He's a bloodthirsty demon king. Countless Yao beasts couldn't help but tremble when they saw this scene. Their hair stood on end. That purple-robed youth was too cruel. He was even crueler than the most brutal Yao beasts. Du Xiaofu wiped the traces of blood from the corner of his mouth. He did not pay any attention to the wild Bear King and fantasy Tiger King, who were both sealed. After which, he carried several kilograms of bear paw meat and several dozen kilograms of tiger rump meat. After washing them clean under a nearby waterfall, he threw half of them into the medicinal cauldron that was originally stewing the mysterious nether demon dragon. Du Xiaofu had been in control of the battle. He had even set up a seal to prevent the Xianming demon flood dragon's meat and the barbecue table from being destroyed. It was a pity that the bottles that Du Xiaofu used to barbecue meat had been destroyed by the great earth thunder. However, Du Xiaofu had reached the level of a foodie. After fiddling around, he found some strange bottles and jars. Some of them even contained some tasty elixirs. Thus, while he was cooking, Du Xiaofu was also barbecuing the wild earth bear paw meat, the spiritual tiger butt meat, and the Xianming demon flood dragon meat. Cruel, too cruel. Demon King, that's the bloodthirsty Demon King. Seeing the purple-robed youth drinking the wild Earth Bear King and the spiritual Tiger King's blood and barbecuing the Xianming Demon Flood Dragon, the wild Earth Bear King, and the spiritual Tiger King's meat left everyone dumbfounded. Some of the Yao beasts retreated as their hair stood on end. The purple-robed youth's cruelty left all the Yao beasts with lingering fear. Some of the more cowardly Yao beasts turned around and left. They didn't want to watch the show, lest they get caught up in it. Some of the beast kings that had followed the wild Earth Bear King and the spiritual Tiger King also retreated in fear. They couldn't leave. After all, the wild Earth Bear King and the spiritual Tiger King weren't dead yet. If the wild Earth Bear King and the spiritual Tiger King escaped, they would definitely be targeted. However, if they didn't leave, the Yao beasts were afraid that the purple-robed youth would be the first to find trouble with them. After a while, the pot of soup was filled with a fragrant aroma. Light flowed everywhere, and energy rippled. The aroma of barbecued meat filled the air, and oil splattered everywhere. The aroma spread for 10 miles, whetting everyone's appetite. Do you want to eat some? It tastes good, and it's also very nutritious. After the soup and barbecued meat were ready, Du Xiaofu looked at the purple-flamed demonic phoenix standing quietly in the distance and asked. Du Xiaofu guessed that with the purple-flamed demonic phoenix's cold and demonic temperament, it probably wouldn't bother to pay attention to him. Anyway, he asked later. Chapter 1248. However, Du Xiaofu did not expect the purple flame demonic phoenix to nod and say, "It looks pretty good." The purple flame demonic phoenix had already landed in front of Du Xiaofu when its heavenly voice sounded. Du Xiaofu was a little surprised, but then a smile appeared on his resolute face. He took out a few jade bowls that were originally used to hold elixirs. He filled a bowl with soup and handed it to the purple flame demonic phoenix. Then, he wrapped a large piece of roasted meat with a fragrant leaf and handed it to the purple flame demonic phoenix. The purple flame demonic phoenix's expression was calm. Its purple eyes looked at the treasure soup and roasted meat. Its red lips parted slightly, and after taking a small bite, its purple eyes lit up and rippled. Du Xiaofu could not wait any longer. He drank the treasure soup and ate the roasted meat. Runes filled his mouth, and energy rippled. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was not just eating the treasure soup and roasted meat. They all contained a shocking amount of energy. A few mouthfuls of this treasure soup and roasted meat would be enough for an ordinary martial king to break through. A martial emperor would benefit greatly if he drank a bowl of this treasure soup. "Little falcon, come here. I'll give you some soup and meat." Du Xiaofu did not forget about Little Falcon. He called out to the little falcon, who was hovering nearby. Coo coo, the little falcon had already smelled the tempting aroma, so it naturally knew that the treasure soup and barbecue meat were not ordinary. They contained a huge amount of energy, so it could obtain huge benefits. Not to mention, it was currently seriously injured. However, looking at the Wild Bear King and Fantasy Tiger King who were currently restrained, Little Falcon was a little hesitant. If it drank the soup and ate the meat in front of the Fantasy Tiger King and Wild Bear King, if it had the chance in the future, it would offend them completely. It would definitely not end well in the future. "I'm afraid they can't escape their fate," Little Falcon thought to himself as he consoled himself. In the end, he was unable to resist the temptation of the fragrance and turned into a young man in silver robes. He looked to be around 28 or 29 years old and immediately landed beside Du Xiaofu. Wow, when he drank the first mouthful of the treasured soup, a rich energy fluctuation gently spread in his stomach, creating ripples. The first mouthful of barbecued meat was overflowing with fragrance. It was neither burnt nor soft, and melted as soon as he chewed. The taste buds on the tip of his tongue immediately opened up, as if a gentle spring breeze had brushed past his mouth. The fragrance lingered in his mouth, causing Little Falcon to cry out in surprise. "Little Falcon, you must remember, don't have any ideas behind my back in the future. It's very dangerous. Du Xiaofu suddenly patted little Falcon's shoulder with a smile in his eyes. He handed over a large piece of barbecued meat to little Falcon and said with a caring smile, "Come, eat more. You'll have more to eat in the future. That bear and big cat are quite big, so they should be enough for us to eat for a while." Little Falcon's heart trembled when he heard Du Xiaofu's words and saw the caring look in his eyes. Even his Yuan spirit felt numb from fear. He felt that the purple-robed young man before him seemed to have seen through his intention to take advantage of the situation. Little Falcon could not help but feel his hairs stand on end, and he looked at the barbecued meat in his hand and then at the pitiful wild bear king and fantasy tiger king. How was this letting him eat more? It was clearly a warning. If he angered the bloodthirsty demon king, he would end up like the wild bear king and fantasy tiger king. When the time came, the barbecued meat would be his. Thinking of this, little Falcon could not help but secretly rejoice. When he first heard the bloodthirsty demon king say that his feathers were not easy to pluck and eat, he thought it was a joke. Only now did he realize that the bloodthirsty demon king was not joking. He rejoiced that his feathers had saved his life. The wild bear king and fantasy tiger king, who were lying on the ground, watched as the three of them drank their soup and ate their barbecued meat. Their hearts were filled with a myriad of emotions. They were shocked, terrified, and furious, but there was nothing they could do. They had already become meat on the chopping block. They were fish on the chopping block. The taste is really good. Just the fragrance alone is irresistible. The soup made by the peak transcendent Xianming flood dragon, the origin-level demonic fire fantasy tiger, and the berserk earth-shattering bear is comparable to heavenly treasures. It's a great tonic, and it's so fragrant. If only I could have a bite. The surrounding monsters, who could not bear to leave, watched from afar as the three of them drank the soup and ate the meat. Their hair stood on end, and their eyes were filled with envy. But looking at the soup and barbecued meat, none of the monsters dared to go up and snatch it. The wild bear king and fantasy tiger king's fates were still there. That was the best deterrent. Not bad. It's a great tonic. It's a pity that Du Xiaoyao, little Qing, little tiger, and the tomboy aren't here. The soup and barbecued meat turned into energy that rushed into his limbs and bones. It was indescribably comfortable. But then, Du Xiaofu could not help but think of Du Xiaoyao, Du Xiaoqing, little tiger, and the tomboy. He wondered how they were doing now. Especially the tomboy, Yang Shuang. She had been gone for several years, and no one knew where she was. This made Du Xiaofu even more worried. Du Xiaofu himself had not noticed before that he was actually so worried about that tomboy. Demon King, Du Xiaofu. Oh my God, that's the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. Suddenly, a shocked beast roar came from the monster horde in the distance, and it reverberated in all directions. A beast Emperor Nirvana realm ferocious bird had just arrived nearby and rushed into the monster horde to watch the show. It immediately saw the purple-robed young man who was drinking the soup and eating the meat. He had a domineering aura, and the way he ate also revealed a kind of ferocity. Its ferocious eyes were filled with doubt and surprise. Then, its expression changed drastically, and it could not help but exclaim loudly. The ferocious bird recognized who the purple-robed young man was. Back on the Tianhuang continent, it had seen the purple-robed young man from afar. He was the Dragon 9 who had killed dragons on the Tianhuang continent. That figure was branded in its mind, and it had never forgotten it. It was not difficult for it to recognize him now. What? That bloodthirsty Demon King is the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. As the ferocious bird exclaimed, the monster horde's expression changed drastically. The Demon King, Du Xiaofu. Although he had never been to the beast region, his domineering deeds of killing the dragon, Dragon 9, and slaying the cyan-headed flood dragon had long since spread throughout the beast region. Now that they learned that the purple-robed, bloodthirsty Demon King was the legendary Demon King, Du Xiaofu, who had killed the dragons, Dragon 9, the Demon King. They were all stunned and terrified. Only then did the monster horde truly understand that the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, had even dared to kill the dragons, Dragon 9. No wonder he dared to trample on the Mad Bear King and Fantasy Tiger King. Compared to Dragon 9, the Mad Bear King and Fantasy Tiger King's identities naturally didn't amount to much. Although the Fantasy Tiger King and Mad Bear King were restrained, they weren't deaf. When they heard the astonished cries all around them, they learned that the purple-robed youth before them was actually the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, who had slain the dragons, Dragon 9. Their pupils constricted, and complex emotions filled their eyes. Not long ago, they'd been discussing how great it would be if they could take the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, as their battle servant. Who could have imagined that they'd end up like this in front of the Demon King, Du Xiaofu? Demon King, Du Xiaofu. Little Falcon's astonished gaze also landed on Du Xiaofu's body in astonishment as it trembled. Only now did Little Falcon realize that the savage fellow before him was actually the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, whose name had long since spread throughout the beast region. No wonder he was so savage. Du Xiaofu paid no heed to the commotion around him. As if he hadn't heard a thing, he wolfed down the roasted meat and drank the soup. "Do you want more?" When he saw that the purple flame fiendish phoenix had finished eating, Du Xiaofu raised his eyes and asked. "I'll do it myself." The purple flame fiendish phoenix raised her brows slightly. She'd originally wanted to refuse, but the deliciousness of the food made her say something she didn't mean. She avoided Du Xiaofu's gaze and scooped up the soup herself. However, the way she ate was still bewitching. Compared to Du Xiaofu and Little Falcon, her table manners were countless times better. The three of them ate heartily until not a single drop of the soup was left. Even the roasted meat was gone. Only then did Du Xiaofu pat his round belly. He couldn't help but burp and say, the taste wasn't bad. "I'm going to rest for a bit." As soon as he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu sat down cross-legged. "Aren't we going to look for Little Star?" The purple flame fiendish phoenix frowned as she asked Du Xiaofu. "I've thought about it. In any case, we're already here. There's no rush. If we can't find her, she might end up running into us." Du Xiaofu replied to the purple flame fiendish phoenix. Then, he sat down cross-legged and began to meditate. A ring of golden light enveloped his body. A domineering and intimidating aura filled the air, causing the surrounding beasts to tremble in fear. Chapter 1249. Little Falcon had long since started meditating, his body glowing. After drinking so much treasure soup and roasted meat, he'd gained many benefits. Only the purple flame demon phoenix stood quietly atop a boulder. Her posture was languid, and her beauty was moving. However, the aura she exuded caused the surrounding beasts to tremble. Night had already fallen. Dusk spread out like a large gray net, enveloping the entire heavenly beast tomb. The deep blue sky was dotted with countless tiny stars. The pitiful wild bear king and fantasy tiger king had been restrained and thrown to the ground like prodigal dogs. Their eyes were filled with anger and fear. After learning that the purple-robed youth was the demon king, Du Xiaofu, the wild bear king and fantasy tiger king no longer had anything to rely on. If even Dragon 9 had dared to kill dragons, why wouldn't the Demon King dare to kill them? The Demon King Du Xiaofu who killed Dragon 9 has come to the beast region. He's in the heavenly beast tomb. Too savage. That Demon King Du Xiaofu really eats beasts. He's even more savage than us. How can such a savage guy exist? Is he even human? The Wild Bear King and Fantasy Tiger King have both been defeated. I'm afraid they'll meet their end as well. The Wild Bear King and Fantasy Tiger King are so miserable. They've been ravaged to the point where it's unbearable to look at. In the darkness of the night, news that the demon king Du Xiaofu was in the beast region and in the heavenly beast tomb spread like wildfire. It immediately caused a huge commotion within the heavenly beast tomb. Many of the beasts had originally planned to go find the demon king Du Xiaofu. If they could take him as their battle servant, they'd have limitless glory. After all, he'd killed dragons, Dragon 9, and the demon king Du Xiaofu. Even if that didn't work, they'd give the demon king Du Xiaofu to the dragons. The benefits would be immense. However, when they heard that the Wild Bear King and Fantasy Tiger King had joined forces but ended up in such a miserable state, some of the beasts who'd been making a ruckus no longer said anything. Dawned gradually, the light of the heavenly beast tomb. Between the mountain range and the mountain peaks, the evening mist quietly filled the air. The light gradually turned light gray and hung on the branches of the mountain peaks. The land that was enveloped by the light seemed to be in a state of chaos. Then, the morning sun shone and the sky began to brighten, roar. On the heavenly beast tomb, the demon beasts. Tens of thousands of beasts didn't dare to approach this place. That astonishing formless aura froze the space. Several figures stood at the top of one of the mountain peaks. Two young men stood there with imposing appearances. Their auras made the space around them feel oppressive. "You're saying that the demon king Du Xiaofu is here?" asked a young man in blue robes. His long blue hair reached his shoulders. He gazed at a wolf-like beast in front of him. The blue-robed young man's temperament was calm and elegant. For some reason, he exuded an arrogance that flowed from his very bones. Replying to the 8th Dragon Prince, "It's definitely the demon king Du Xiaofu. He's too savage." The Wild Bear King and Fantasy Tiger King were ravaged miserably. The wolf-like beast replied respectfully. It was intimidated by the blue-robed young man's incorporeal aura. It felt like it was facing an ocean, vast and boundless. The depths of its nascent divinity trembled. "This is what you deserve." Dragon 8 tossed a spirit fruit that shone with radiance and rippled with energy to the wolf-like beast. His expression was calm as he said, "Bring out the news. Whoever brings back Du Xiaofu will get a great ability. Even the latest news about him will be greatly rewarded." "Yes, I'll take my leave." The wolf-like beast was pleasantly surprised. Receiving a great ability made its blood boil. It immediately flew into the sky and left. The revenge of the 9th Dragon Prince is the shame of the dragons. It's time for a bloodbath. Beside the blue-robed young man, there was a young man in red clothes. He looked like he was burning with flames. Light gushed out from his eyes. An aura spread out from his body, causing the surrounding space to tremble. Of course. The shame of the dragons needs a bloodbath today. Dragon 8's voice seemed to be able to shake the space. His eyes rippled like the waves of the sea. After dawn, everything was quiet. Wisps of light appeared on the horizon in the east, gradually soaking the light blue sky. On the peak of a cliff, there was a towering tree. The morning sun was rising in the distance. Under the towering tree, a graceful and beautiful woman stood quietly. She looked to be about 23 or 24 years old. Her long black hair was tied up in a princess bun with a 7-colored hairpin. A few strands of tassels hung down. Her soft skin was like snow. Her face was smooth, and her lips were like cherry blossoms. Her eyebrows were like an ink painting. Her spirit was like autumn water. She was so refined that she didn't seem to have the slightest trace of the mortal world. The woman looked ahead, as if she had been thinking about something all night long. It was as if everything around her had nothing to do with her. Her 7-colored eyes glowed red as if she was thinking about something. "Fourth Princess, not long ago, I received news that the Purple Star Demonic Dragon Emperor was killing everywhere. Many people who wanted to deal with her were scared witless. It was very miserable." A middle-aged man quietly appeared behind the woman, his face respectful. "Purple Star Demonic Dragon Emperor? Could that little girl be related to dragons?" The woman murmured softly. She merely stood there quietly, appearing dignified and noble. She was untainted by even a speck of dust. She was indescribably ethereal and elegant. She was incomparably noble. By the way, fourth princess, it is said that the demon king Du Xiaofu has also appeared in the heavenly beast tomb. The middle-aged man hesitated for a moment, then said again. Hearing this, the woman's seven-colored eyes suddenly rippled. She slightly raised her eyes. Under a red-patterned pleated skirt, a snow-white chest was slightly exposed. The skirt only covered her knees. She wore a pair of seven-colored stockings on her calves, making her slender and tall legs look even taller. That human has come. Long Ba and Long Qi seem to be inside too. It seems that the heavenly beast tomb is going to be lively this time. The woman smiled faintly. Her smile was like a colorful lotus flower blooming, shocking and moving the world. A rainbow-colored belt around her waist tightened her slender waist and made her chest even more plump. Then, she asked lightly, "Is there any news about that guy?" Replying to the fourth princess, "That guy's concealment technique is not weak. We haven't been able to find any news about him." The middle-aged man replied with a slight frown. "He is very strong. If we can use him, then compared to the people Long Ba and Long Qi found this time, we have an absolute chance of winning. Find that guy as soon as possible. This time, I will personally take action." The woman's voice paused for a moment, then she slightly opened her red lips and said softly, "Let's set off. I hope we can gain something in the heavenly beast tomb this time." Walala. As soon as the woman's voice fell, a spatial fluctuation suddenly appeared in the sky not far away. A blazing heat wave rolled over. Four fiery phoenixes that looked like birds but were not birds, like the wind and like phoenixes. They flapped their wings and pulled a phoenix chariot over. The phoenix chariot stopped in midair. There were seven-colored ornaments on the curtains that jingled. The four fiery phoenixes were wrapped in billowing flames. Wherever they passed, white smoke would spread in the air. The scorching heat swept over the earth. The phoenix chariot was engraved with mysterious runes. It had an ancient aura and was shining with seven-colored light. Whoosh! The woman jumped onto the phoenix chariot. The fiery phoenixes flapped their wings and pulled the phoenix chariot to fly in the air. Whoosh whoosh, behind the woman, many powerful auras appeared in the air. Many of them were human auras. Then, they disappeared in the air. In the early morning, the last remnant star shone in the sky. It emitted light, dimming and brightening, like a candle flame in the wind. Although it was weak, it would never be extinguished. In a canyon, a young man sat cross-legged on a huge rock. His skin was as clear as jade, and his long hair hung down to his shoulders. He was just sitting cross-legged, but he was indescribably otherworldly. Huff! The young man retracted his hand seal and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He slowly opened his eyes. Under his thick eyebrows, a pair of eyes that were filled with the spirit chi of heaven and earth seemed to contain no impurities. They were clear but bottomless. His eyes were like gurgling spring water, and his temperament was as gentle as the wind. Whoosh! A demon condor that was dozens of feet long appeared. An invisible aura spread out and froze the void. The young man stood up. His clothes were as white as snow. He stretched his back slightly. His face was handsome, his nose was sharp, and his body was straight. He seemed to be asking the demon condor, "Is there any news?" "Master, Huangling, of the Phoenix race is still looking for you." The demon condor replied with absolute wariness in its sharp eyes. "Huangling, That woman is not to be trifled with. If we can avoid her, we'd better avoid her." At the mention of Huangling, there was a hint of wariness in the young man's eyes. Back in the Tianhuang mainland, he already knew how terrifying that woman was. "Master, it said that someone called the demon king Du Xiaofu also came to the heavenly beast tomb and caused a lot of commotion. It said that the raging bear king and the spiritual tiger king have already been ravaged by the demon king. The demon condor continued. That ferocious guy is actually here. Hearing that, the handsome young man was stunned. Then, the corners of the young man's red lips curled up slightly. His temperament became more unrestrained as he muttered softly, "It seems that the heavenly beast tomb is going to be lively." Chapter 1250. Early in the morning, the little falcon stopped meditating in front of a messy cliff. Its injuries had healed significantly, and it was pleasantly surprised. It knew very well how much benefit it had gained from drinking the soup and eating the roasted meat yesterday. Phew, Du Xiaofu also stopped meditating. The golden light on his body slowly receded, and he exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. He opened his eyes, and the golden light that contained some lightning soon turned clear. Crack! Du Xiaofu stood up and stretched. His joints crackled as he stood up, and a smile appeared on his face. Feeling the abundant Xian qi in his body and the vigorous primordial spirit energy in his mind, he felt indescribably carefree. Du Xiaofu could feel that he was about to make a breakthrough in his martial way. He only needed a suitable opportunity, and he might be able to make a breakthrough. However, even Du Xiaofu himself wasn't sure about making a breakthrough. Moreover, at his current level of cultivation, breaking through to the next level would have a huge impact on his various mystiques and his understanding of his meridians and spirits. Breakfast is too important. I must eat well. When Du Xiaofu's gaze landed on the restrained savage bear king and spiritual tiger king on the ground, a faint smile appeared on his face. Roar! Immediately after, in this clear and quiet place where not a sound could be heard, two miserable shrieks tore through the quiet land and sky, causing all the beasts to panic. The pitiful savage bear king's other paw had another large chunk of meat cut off. The spiritual tiger king's other half of its but had a few dozen kilograms of meat cut off as well, and it howled in pain. Du Xiaofu didn't even spare the savage bear king and spiritual tiger king a glance, let alone say a word. He directly cut off their meat without holding back. What made the savage bear king and spiritual tiger king even more uneasy was that the demon king Du Xiaofu didn't even say a word, and directly cut them off. This clearly showed that he didn't care about them at all and could truly destroy them at any time. Du Xiaofu would not let go of the bear's blood and tiger's blood. He received another 2 large cauldrons. This time, Du Xiaofu did not drink all of it. Instead, he drank half of it and left the other half. The blood of a demon fire spirit fantasy tiger and a wild earth-shattering bear at the level of a primordial origin beast venerable was extremely precious. Du Xiaofu was reluctant to drink all of it. He would leave it for the younger generation of Shicheng to refine their bodies and nurture their meridian souls. The benefits would be even greater. In comparison, it would be a waste for him to drink it. Using the blood of the berserk earth-shattering bear and the demonic fire spirit fantasy tiger to nurture the meridian soul and body of a junior. If the youths on Kyushu heard of this, they would be extremely envious. That was the ancient heaven sect. Even in the great sects like the immeasurable sect, there were not many people who had such luck. After skinning and cleaning them, Du Xiaofu continued to cook the meat. Early in the morning, the aroma of meat permeated the surroundings of the cliff. The aroma spread for 10 miles, making people drool. The wild bear king and spirit fantasy tiger king are completely crippled this time. Savage, too savage. Demon King Du Xiaofu wants to rear the wild bear king and spirit fantasy tiger king and eat them slowly. Does he want to eat fresh meat every day? At this moment, the surrounding beasts were already used to the demon king Du Xiaofu's savagery. But when they saw the wild bear king and spirit fantasy tiger king howling in pain from afar, they still felt a chill down their spines. Do you want to eat some more? When the aroma of meat permeated the air, Du Xiaofu looked at the purple flame demonic phoenix not far away. I don't need it. It's too oily. The purple flame demonic phoenix said softly. It was rare for her to be so gentle to Du Xiaofu. But when the purple flame demonic phoenix's words fell into the ears of the miserable wild bear king and spirit fantasy tiger king, the two beasts' eyes widened. That woman actually said that their meat was too oily. Du Xiaofu didn't mind that the purple flame demonic phoenix didn't eat. He looked at little falcon and said, let's eat together. You'll only have the strength to fly after you're full. Little falcon was already drooling. It had been waiting at the side, but when it suddenly heard Du Xiaofu's words, it felt an inexplicable sadness in its heart. But after that, the desire for good food drowned out everything. It immediately began to eat heartily. In fact, little falcon even felt that following the demon king wasn't a bad thing. This demon king was really good to his own people. A large pot of treasure soup and a few dozen pounds of roasted meat. It didn't take long for the man and beast to be cleanly devoured. Their mouths glowed as energy rippled from their bodies. The eyes of the surrounding beasts were all red. They were drooling, but unfortunately, no one dared to fight for it. In fact, they didn't even dare to approach. Ugh, Du Xiaofu burped. He rubbed his round belly and revealed a satisfied smile. Cultivators in this world would no longer eat grains or meat after reaching a certain level of cultivation. This was to prevent them from being contaminated by the filth that would affect their cultivation. However, Du Xiaofu had always felt that these cultivators were too unlucky. As a cultivator, even if they reached the strongest level and became a peak expert one day, if they couldn't drink and eat meat at that time, they would lose one of the greatest pleasures of becoming an expert. After burping, Du Xiaofu looked at the violent bear king and spiritual tiger king lying on the ground not far away. He said, have you thought it through? This is the last time I'm asking you. Do you want to be my followers? If you don't want to, it's fine. I'll take care of you. It's fine even if I take care of you for 1,000 or 800 years. I'll take a bit of your meat every day to cook soup and roast it. It can strengthen the body and relax the meridians. It's a rare thing. However, when these words entered the ears of the violent bear king and spiritual tiger king, their ferocious eyes trembled. Eating their fresh meat every day for 1,000 or 800 years. How cruel would that be? At this moment, the violent bear king and spiritual tiger king definitely wouldn't doubt Du Xiaofu's words. After all, the demon king before them had already done so. The spiritual tiger king and the violent bear king also wouldn't doubt Du Xiaofu's courage. How could someone who had even killed the dragons, Dragon 9, be a coward? Their eyes were filled with fear, and their hair stood on end. The spiritual tiger king and the violent bear king knew that the demon king before them wasn't joking. I agree. I agree. The spiritual tiger king and the violent bear king spoke at almost the same time. With their last shred of hope gone, they made their choice in the face of life and death. Now that's smart. Congratulations on saving your lives. Hearing this, Du Xiaofu looked at the violent bear king and spiritual tiger king with an absolute smile on his face. Being able to take in two origin beast sovereigns as his followers was enough reason for Du Xiaofu to be happy. But I have a condition. I won't be your follower. I'll only be by your side temporarily and listen to everything you say. When the day comes when I can defeat you again, I won't be your follower anymore. The spiritual tiger king looked at Du Xiaofu. Although it was on the verge of death and was in a terrible state, its eyes were still filled with the arrogance of a king. The spiritual tiger king's arrogance came from the demonic fire spiritual tiger clan. It came from its bloodline and soul. This kind of arrogance was sometimes more important than its life. It couldn't throw away the pride of the entire tiger clan. The Du Xiaofu before it was a human. The spiritual tiger king was the representative of the tiger clan. Therefore, it couldn't be his follower. It could only be his follower, and it couldn't be his follower forever. If there was a chance, it would take revenge for the humiliation it had suffered today. Me too. My condition is the same as the spiritual Tiger King's. The violent Bear King immediately shouted. He wanted the same condition as the spiritual Tiger King. If you want to be my follower, then so be it. What right do you have to bargain? Do you think it's shameful to be my follower? Just as the spiritual Tiger King finished speaking, Du Xiaofu ruthlessly stomped his foot on the spiritual Tiger King and the violent Bear King's battered bodies. Golden light erupted, and the spiritual Tiger King and the violent Bear King cried out in pain. Follower is not negotiable. However, I can promise you the second condition. If you can defeat me in the future, the two of you can join forces. At that time, I can even become your follower. Du Xiaofu said with a smile on his face. There was no problem with the second condition. Chapter 1251. Du Xiaofu refused to believe that the Wild Bear King and Fantasy Tiger King could surpass him in strength. If that day really did come, he'd have no choice but to become their lackey. They probably wouldn't let him off the hook. Fine. Du Xiaofu didn't agree to the first condition, and insisted that they become his followers. But, he had at least agreed to the first condition. So, the two beasts hesitated for a moment. Then, they clenched their teeth and agreed. The Wild Bear King and Fantasy Tiger King have become Demon King Du Xiaofu's lackeys. When the surrounding Yao saw this, their jaws dropped. The Wild Bear King and Fantasy Tiger King had no choice. They were unlucky enough to run into the Demon King Du Xiaofu. If they didn't agree, they probably wouldn't be able to keep their lives. Some of the Yao sighed helplessly. Originally, the Wild Bear King and Fantasy Tiger King had been aggressively looking for trouble with Du Xiaofu. Who could have imagined that the tables would turn? Not far away, the Wild Bear King and Fantasy Tiger King were following them. Altogether, there were no less than 20 Yao experts. Most of them were beast sovereigns, while only a few were beast emperors. When the Yao saw that the Wild Bear King and Fantasy Tiger King were following the Demon King Du Xiaofu, they tacitly retreated. They didn't want to follow the Demon King Du Xiaofu. In the beast region, anyone who became a human's lackey would be despised by all Yao beasts. Get over here. If you dare leave, I'll tear you apart. Du Xiaofu had unlocked the restriction on the spiritual Fantasy Tiger King, and it roared. Its ferocious eyes stared at the group of demonic beasts that were about to leave quietly. Last night, the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, had been meditating. The Phantom Tiger King had thought that his followers would take advantage of that rare opportunity to rescue them. In the end, the group of followers didn't do anything for the entire night. This made the Phantom Tiger King even angrier, and it had a belly full of anger. As soon as the seal was removed, the spiritual Tiger King immediately glared at the group of followers. What's more, now that he had become a human's follower, the Phantom Tiger King wouldn't let his follower go either. It was better to have all the Yao beasts accompany them than to have only the two of them as followers. Even though the Phantom Tiger Kings were riddled with wounds and had followed Du Xiaofu, they were still powerful. Moreover, they had only been ravaged by the Demon King Du Xiaofu, so their injuries were temporary. Following the spiritual illusion Tiger King's loud roar, the monster kings that were about to leave immediately stopped in their tracks. Fear filled their eyes, and they didn't dare to leave. All of you, stop as well. The violent Bear King's loud roar followed the Phantom Tiger King's. His eyes were fixed on his followers, and he was also burning with anger. The monster kings that followed the violent Bear King naturally didn't want to leave either. They stopped in fear, their hearts trembling. Why aren't you getting your ass over here? The Phantom Tiger King and the violent Bear King roared. The group of followers immediately came forward in fear, their eyes filled with fear. Give me all the spiritual herbs. The Phantom Tiger King and the violent Bear King shouted at their followers at almost the same time. At this moment, the violent Bear King and the Phantom Tiger King were riddled with wounds and on the verge of death. They needed spiritual herbs to recover, because the Demon King Du Xiaofu had already taken their Qiankuan pouches after they were sealed yesterday. Even now, the Demon King had no intention of returning them. Having just escaped a calamity, the Phantom Tiger King and the Violent Bear King naturally couldn't ask the Demon King for their spiritual herbs. They didn't want to be taught a lesson again. Although the Phantom Tiger King and the Violent Bear King's followers were reluctant to part with their spiritual herbs, they had no choice but to hand them over to the Phantom Tiger King and the Violent Bear King. "Alright, it's time for us to head out." Du Xiaofu glanced at the Phantom Tiger King and the Violent Bear King. He wasn't worried at all that the Phantom Tiger King and the Violent Bear King would go back on their word. They were famous existences in the Beast region. Even if they went back on their word, they wouldn't. Besides, he wasn't worried about them going back on their word. What he was worried about was that he wasn't strong enough to intimidate them. As for the Violent Bear King and the Phantom Tiger King's followers, most of them beast sovereigns, Du Xiaofu was inwardly delighted. If they returned to the central continent in the future, they'd be able to dominate a region. However, Du Xiaofu knew that, given his current cultivation, even if he had the Phantom Tiger King and the Violent Bear King with him, they wouldn't be able to change anything compared to legalism and the devil religion. Even if he had to face the Divine Light Court, Du Xiaofu knew he wasn't strong enough. Ignoring the fact that the Divine Light Court was backed by the devil religion, there was still the Divine Light Court. In the Divine Light Court, there was the old man Xinguang Tianzuan. Du Xiaofu knew that with his current cultivation, it would be difficult for him to do anything. As soon as he finished speaking, Du Xiaofu sat on the little falcon and followed the purple flame demon phoenix into the sky. The Phantom Tiger King and the Violent Bear King each had one of their flying beast sovereigns transform into their true forms and followed them helplessly. Now that the Demon King has left, I wonder who's going to be the next unlucky one. Looking at the back of the Demon King Du Xiaofu, the surrounding beast sovereigns felt relieved for no reason. Whoosh! An hour after Du Xiaofu and the others left, the space in front of the cliff fluctuated, and a young man appeared in midair. This was a young man with an extremely slender figure. He wore a slightly tight-fitting crimson-red robe that completely revealed his perfect figure. He had crimson-red hair that was like blood and fire, a straight nose, and rather three-dimensional facial features that couldn't conceal his extraordinary heroic bearing, and he was born with the aura of a king that ruled over the world. The young man's eyes were also blood-red, sharp and deep, giving people a sense of endless oppression. When this young man appeared, the remaining beast sovereigns who had yet to leave began to tremble for no reason. "Can anyone tell me where that Du Xiaofu is?" The blood-red robed young man floated in mid-air, his gaze sweeping across the surroundings as his voice reverberated. "The Demon King Du Xiaofu has left." "Which direction did he go?" Hearing the words of the blood-red robed young man, some of the beast sovereigns could not help but point out the direction for him. It was as though there was someone guiding them in their heads, involuntarily and willingly. Whoosh! Before the beast sovereigns could finish their words, the blood-red robed young man disappeared into the air, leaving no trace behind. That seems to be, as the young man left, a fire wolf seemed to have recalled who the young man was. Instantly, a look of absolute fear appeared in its eyes. "Are you talking about him?" A ghost, beside the beast sovereigns, a lion's eyes trembled in fear. However, it was interrupted by the fire wolf. "That's him. I heard that back then, that scary guy was even on par with the dragons, 8th dragon. All these years, countless powerful existences have died in his hands. His appearance is a demon-like existence." Hua Lang was terrified. His entire body was trembling. That terrifying existence in scarlet clothes was simply too terrifying. Whoosh whoosh! Not long after the blood-red robed young man left, there was the sound of wind breaking. A large group of figures appeared in mid-air, and their auras spread out, solidifying the sky. In the lead was a young man in a blue robe, with long blue hair draped over his shoulders. Together with a young man in battle attire, they had an imposing appearance. As their gazes swept across, none of the beast sovereigns dared to look at them. "Greetings, 7th Dragon Prince, 8th Dragon Prince." As the two young men stepped into the air, the scattered beast sovereigns in the surroundings immediately bowed down in respect, all of them filled with fear. Whoosh in the dusky abyss, there was a huge hidden crack, but Du Xiaofu's figure appeared in it. Several extraordinary herbs were overflowing with flowing light and fluctuating energy. Du Xiaofu put them into his Qianquan bag. How could this guy be so secretive? How could he be found? Too miraculous. Not far away, Fantasy Tiger King, Violent Bear King, Little Falcon, and the others were dumbfounded as they watched Du Xiaofu collect the herbs. In just a few hours, they had witnessed an inconceivable scene. That ferocious demon king seemed to know where the herbs and treasures were. He could directly go and pick them. No matter how secretive the place was, he could easily find them. As long as the demon king passed by, there wouldn't be any fish that escaped his net. He wouldn't leave a chance for others. "Kid, put down the herbs." Just as Du Xiaofu plucked a few stalks of precious medicine, an arrogant voice suddenly reverberated. A huge figure then appeared in the sky. A fierce aura surged in the sky, causing the wind to blow and the clouds to churn. Is that guy here? Not far away, Violent Bear King and Fantasy Tiger King raised their eyebrows at the same time when they saw the huge figure in the sky. Then, the Violent Bear King and the Fantasy Tiger King looked at each other, and a faint smile appeared in their eyes. It was as if they already knew what the outcome would be. "Sigh, let's have a moment of silence for that family," the spiritual Fantasy Tiger King sighed as he looked at the enormous creature in the sky. Pity involuntarily appeared in his eyes. "Fantasy, Violent Bear, since you can't bear to touch this guy, I won't hold back." As the arrogant voice sounded, the enormous creature looked at the Fantasy Tiger King and the Violent Bear King with its bell-like eyes. However, when it saw the wretched state the Violent Bear King and the Fantasy Tiger King were in, it seemed to be puzzled and surprised. Chapter 1252. When the spiritual Tiger King and the Violent Bear King heard the words of the enormous creature, they looked at each other, stunned. But in an instant, the two beasts nodded at almost the same time, their fierce eyes smiling. The spiritual Tiger King immediately smiled at the enormous creature and said, "It's fine, I'll leave it to you. Don't worry about us. Yes, don't give us any face. Do what you need to do." The Violent Bear King emphasized this point with a smile in his eyes. He wanted nothing more than for that colossal being to immediately make a move. Many of the beast kings who followed the Violent Bear King and the spiritual Tiger King immediately understood and cooperated with the Violent Bear King and the spiritual Tiger King. However, there were still some beast kings who couldn't help but break out in cold sweat because of the winged dragon. Since when were these two so easy to talk to? The enormous creature looked at the Violent Bear King and the spiritual Tiger King in confusion. From what it knew, the Violent Bear King and the spiritual Tiger King had never truly submitted to it when they were alone, let alone now that they were working together. They definitely wouldn't be so easy to talk to. The precious medicine that the young man had obtained was obviously extraordinary. Those two guys are heavily injured. So that's why. There was a puzzled look in the enormous creature's eyes. Then, it looked at the miserable illusion Tiger King and Violent Bear King and immediately understood. The spiritual Tiger King and the Violent Bear King were already heavily injured. It didn't know who had injured them, but that wasn't important. What was important was that the spiritual Tiger King and the Violent Bear King weren't confident in dealing with the purple-robed young man. At this moment, Du Xiaofu looked at the enormous creature in the sky and raised his eyebrows slightly, a faint smile in his eyes. Du Xiaofu was no stranger to that enormous creature. After entering the heavenly beast tomb, the thing that had left the deepest impression on him was the enormous creature in front of him. It was a strange dragon with a pair of wings on its back. Its entire body was covered in dragon-like scales, and it had sharp claws. Its scales were dense, and its bloody mouth was wide open. It was strange and ferocious. What an impressive winged dragon! Du Xiaofu smiled faintly. It was the arrogant and domineering winged dragon that he had seen when he first entered the heavenly beast tomb. It was obvious that this winged dragon was more reclusive. It wasn't as ostentatious as the spiritual Tiger King and the violent Bear King. According to legend, the winged dragon bloodline dragon was even more powerful than the dragon. However, it was said that there were two types of winged dragons. It was rumored that those with the snake-foot bloodline could cultivate with the help of the dragon vein. After cultivating for 300 years, they would become a flood dragon, and after 500 years, they would become a winged dragon. Du Xiaofu looked at the behemoth in the sky. It should be the true bloodline of the winged dragon, and judging from the terrifying aura emanating from its body, it was definitely at the level of the Lord of Chaos. Is nnnnnnnnnnnnnnnnn is boy. Is nai. Our nine nenai was nen nesu. Roar. When they heard the thunderous roar of the winged dragon, all the beasts in the area trembled, and the sound waves caused the earth to tremble as well. It is indeed not weak. It has the aura of dragons. In the face of Ing Long's ferocious aura, a terrifying chi wave rushed over, causing Du Xiaofu to secretly praise him. However, a faint smile still hung on his face. When Du Xiaofu's smile landed in the eyes of the winged dragon, it felt its heart tremble for no reason. Du Xiaofu's gaze was as if it was looking at its prey. It's been a long time since I've drunk dragon blood and eaten dragon meat. Although your bloodline is a little mixed, I'll make do with it. When we're outside, I'm not that particular. If you're a mixed blood dragon, so be it. Du Xiaofu said with a faint smile. He did not care about the ferocious winged dragon at all. In the face of Du Xiaofu's indifference, Fantasy Tiger King, Wild Bear King, Little Falcon, and the others naturally did not care. They were already praying for the winged dragon in their hearts. Drink dragon blood and eat dragon meat. They knew that the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, was definitely not a joke. However, at this moment, the beasts that were attracted by the huge aura all showed disdain when they heard Du Xiaofu's words. Roar! The winged dragon was even more furious. It roared angrily, and a pair of ferocious eyes shone with a cold light. Its huge body flew across the air and suddenly roared ferociously, pouncing towards Du Xiaofu at lightning speed. At this moment, the gigantic winged dragon unleashed its attack. It was as fast as lightning as its body distorted the void. Its ferocious bloody mouth was like a black hole that was trying to devour Du Xiaofu. In front of everyone's eyes, the ferocious winged dragon swallowed Du Xiaofu in one gulp. However, in the next moment, a faint golden light appeared a few hundred feet away. The purple-robed youth that had been swallowed by the winged dragon appeared safe and sound again. So fast. The surrounding beasts understood. The purple-robed youth's speed was too fast, so fast that no one could see him clearly. Roar! The winged dragon raised its head, and its eyes trembled. Its attack had missed, so it attacked again. Its huge tail whipped back like a bolt of lightning, and in an instant, it was in front of Du Xiaofu. The terrifying power swept out, and the space where the winged dragon's huge tail passed through was shattered. The void was distorted, and its scales shone brightly, as if it could destroy everything. Many beasts were shocked. Under the winged dragon's huge tail, even a transcendent martial honorable would be turned into a bloody mist if they were careless. Chi! Chi! At this moment, a shocking scene appeared. Du Xiaofu did not dodge. His right arm shook, and his 5 fingers curled slightly. Mysterious golden talisman patterns flickered on his fingertips, and a claw appeared in his hand. Boom! As the claw exploded with golden light, it was as if it was going to tear the space apart. The dazzling talisman patterns were like golden lightning that wreaked havoc. It was as if a golden-winged roc was going to spread its wings and soar into the 9 heavens. In that instant, an incomparably tyrannical aura erupted from Du Xiaofu's body. This kind of tyrannical and fierce aura was something that shouldn't appear in humans. It could only exist in the bodies of demon beast sovereigns. Under such a claw, the densely packed figures in the surroundings all felt a kind of trembling and fear in their veins and souls, as if they were facing a king supreme. Roc's chaos-crushing claw. Du Xiaofu shouted, and golden light exploded from the claw. It was as if countless golden lightning snakes swept out, and in an overbearing manner, it ruthlessly grabbed the winged dragon's huge tail. It was said that in ancient times, when the golden-winged roc flapped its wings and descended, its sharp claws could capture and tear apart dragons. It could be seen how powerful the roc's claws were. Walala, as the frightening claw descended, a frightening force swept out in the face of the enormous tail of the winged dragon, forcefully stopping it in its tracks without the slightest pause. After a short stalemate, Du Xiaofu's golden claw destroyed the winged dragon's defense. Then, it ruthlessly grabbed the winged dragon's huge tail, and even the dragon's scales were crushed. "Get down!" Du Xiaofu shouted, and with an unstoppable force, he directly grabbed the winged dragon's huge tail and threw it over his shoulder. He grabbed the winged dragon's huge tail from midair, and violently slammed it onto a mountain peak below. Rumble! The winged dragon's huge body fell on the mountain peak, and the huge mountain peak cracked and shattered. The huge rocks turned into dust, and the towering mountain peak was directly flattened. Roc descends to the 9 heavens. Golden light exploded. At this moment, Du Xiaofu activated the roc descends to the 9 heavens, and suppressed the winged dragon in his hand. A destructive purple lightning energy gushed out from the claw, and immediately poured into the winged dragon's body. Rumble! Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky for no reason. The wind and clouds surged, and lightning poured down like a flood. The scales all over the winged dragon's body stood up, and the energy in its body could not be condensed. Coupled with the domineering suppression of the roc descends to the 9 heavens, it could not struggle at all. Let's give it a massage first. Then, the meat will be better. Du Xiaofu stepped into the sky, holding the huge and ferocious winged dragon's huge tail that was almost 1,000 feet long. He had the strength to move mountains and rivers, and like an overlord swinging a cauldron, he threw the winged dragon's body back and forth for more than a dozen times. Rumble, the earth shook, and the mountain peak below cracked. Gravel shot out, and cracks spread on the ground. The shocking scene made all the beasts stunned, and they sucked in a breath of cold air. Coo, even the spiritual fantasy Tiger King and the violent Bear King at this moment felt their throats churning. They swallowed their saliva, and their eyes trembled. Chapter 1253. When the last winged dragon was smashed into the abyss by Du Xiaofu, it was covered in wounds and dripping with blood. Its aura was extremely weak and its wings were almost broken. Roar! Ing Long emitted a miserable howl from his mouth. His voice grew softer and softer. His fierce eyes, which were originally arrogant and wild, were now filled with terror. Chi! Du Xiaofu landed and restrained the wretched winged dragon. Then, he unceremoniously cut open the winged dragon with his sword and began drinking its blood. The blood of a winged dragon at the origin level was only stronger than the blood of the fantasy Tiger King and the savage Bear King. After drinking the winged dragon's blood, Du Xiaofu did not forget about the winged dragon's meat. A huge chunk of the winged dragon's back was cut off by Du Xiaofu, weighing over 50 kilograms. Blood spurted out as the winged dragon howled miserably. Its eyes were filled with fear. Only now did the winged dragon understand why the fantasy Tiger King and the violent Bear King didn't dare to attack. Those two fellows definitely knew something, and that was why they sent the winged dragon to attack. That human was too terrifying, so terrifying that even the winged dragon trembled. Too cruel. The Fantasy Tiger King and the Savage Bear King gasped at the sight of the winged dragon's fate. They knew very well that not long ago, they had suffered the same fate as the winged dragon. This time, Du Xiaofu did not roast the meat. Instead, he stewed the meat of the winged dragon into a soup and generously added a lot of spiritual herbs. The careful Spirit Fantasy Tiger King noticed that the spirit medicines Du Xiaofu was using were the same ones he had found in his bag of the cosmos and King Wild Bear's bag of the cosmos. When the fragrance of the soup whetted everyone's appetite, the purple flame demonic phoenix and little falcon did not hold back. Come and eat. You may not be able to drink the winged dragon soup in the future. Du Xiaofu said to the Fantasy Tiger King, the Savage Bear King, and the many followers behind them. The Ferocious Bear King and Spiritual Tiger King hesitated. They looked at each other, but their eyes were fixed on the pot of rain dragon soup. It was not just soup, but also something good. However, the two of them had their own misgivings. Although they were not on good terms with the winged dragon, they did not have any major grudges against it. It would be inappropriate for them to eat the winged dragon's meat right in front of it. The followers of the Wild Bear King and Fantasy Tiger King were also staring at the pot of rich rain dragon soup. They were very excited that the Demon King would actually call them. However, since the Wild Bear King and Fantasy Tiger King didn't say anything, they didn't dare to do anything. However, if they didn't go up, the soup would be finished by the Demon King and Little Falcon. At that time, not only would there be no meat to eat, there wouldn't even be any leftovers left. Drink. The Fantasy Tiger King and Ferocious Bear King subconsciously made a big decision. Naturally, they could tell that no matter how much rain dragon soup there was, if they didn't hurry up, the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, and Little Falcon would definitely finish it. At that time, they wouldn't even have any left. Moreover, they had already eaten their meat yesterday. No matter what, they had to make up for it. As the Ferocious Bear King and Fantasy Tiger King nodded, the followers of the two beasts looked at them with bright eyes and smiles on their faces. The group of beasts gathered together and began to drink the soup. There were too many of them, and they were all beasts. Although they had shrunk their bodies, their appetites were not small at all. Roar, thus, the pitiful rain dragon let out a miserable cry. This was because Du Xiaofu had opened the second and third pot. Naturally, he used the meat on its back. The group of beasts began to gorge themselves, especially the Fantasy Tiger King and the Ferocious Bear King. Instantly, the distance between them and Du Xiaofu was pulled closer. This was especially true for the Ferocious Bear King and the Fantasy Tiger King. At first, they thought that the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, was a ferocious and terrifying person. Only after they got closer to him did they realize that the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, was actually quite easy to get along with. Of course, there was a prerequisite for getting along with him, and that was to not provoke that guy. Every time the purple flame demonic phoenix ate, it would only take a small bite and would not eat too much. It had already retreated to the side and looked at the purple-robed young man who was mingling with the group of beasts. Its eyes flickered slightly, but it soon calmed down and remained calm. Only the pitiful winged dragon was restrained at the side. Unfortunately, it could still see the other beasts eating heartily. They did not care about it at all. That kind of feeling could be said to be mixed with all sorts of feelings, with regret the most. At this point, the rain dragon could tell that it had guessed wrongly. The reason why the Ferocious Bear King and the Fantasy Tiger King did not intervene was not because it was heavily injured. It turned out that the Ferocious Bear King and the Fantasy Tiger King were in cahoots with the purple-robed young man. It was precisely because the Ferocious Bear King and the Fantasy Tiger King knew the strength of the purple-robed young man that they provoked the rain dragon to intervene. Ferocious Bear King, Fantasy Tiger King, you two bastards. I will not let you go. I will not let you go. The rain dragon cursed weakly. It did not know who the purple-robed young man was, but it saw that the ferocious Bear King and the fantasy Tiger King were in cahoots with the purple-robed young man. Naturally, it could only curse the ferocious Bear King and the fantasy Tiger King. In the end, the 3 pots of treasured soup were all finished. The ferocious Bear King and the fantasy Tiger King burped. Many of the other beasts had benefited greatly. This mixed blood dragon is so fierce. Why don't we cut some of its meat and stew it? The taste of stew with some spiritual herbs is really different. It's much better than eating it raw. The ferocious Bear King glared at the rain dragon that was cursing him and the fantasy Tiger King. It licked its lips. The stew had left it wanting more. It had never tasted anything so delicious. More importantly, drinking a small bowl of soup was also filled with energy. Ferocious Bear King, you bastard! I will not let you go. The rain dragon cursed loudly. It did not expect the ferocious Bear King to be such a bastard. After luring it into a corner, the ferocious Bear King was now adding insult to injury. Stop yelling. The Phantom Tiger King stepped forward and kicked the winged dragon's body. It didn't hold back at all, causing the winged dragon to cry out in pain. Palace Master, this mixed blood dragon brought this upon itself. How dare it provoke the Palace Master? The little tiger then looked at Du Xiaofu. A hint of desire flashed across its eyes. Just as it was talking to Du Xiaofu, it was interrupted by the rain dragon, who shouted, "Fantasy Tiger King, you are also a shameless bastard. Although I did not like you, you are still a member of the demonic beasts. The blood of the Fantasy Tiger clan flows in your body. Now you are adding insult to injury by bowing to a human. How shameless! What are you yelling for? Otherwise, I will chop you into pieces." The Phantom Tiger King roared and kicked the winged dragon again. This time, the winged dragon howled in pain and roared like thunder. "Palace Master, I have an idea. How about this mixed blood dragon?" The Fantasy Tiger King looked at Du Xiaofu. After a moment of hesitation, it said, "This mixed blood dragon is quite strong. Palace Master, why don't you make this mixed blood dragon your first follower?" Chapter 1254. Take him in as a follower, huh? Du Xiaofu smiled. He'd had this thought for a long time. Now that the Fantasy Tiger King had said this, it proved that the Fantasy Tiger King treated Winged Dragon quite well. He wanted to protect Winged Dragon's life. That's right, Palace Master. This mixed blood dragon is quite strong. He's not inferior to me or the Fantasy Tiger King. The Violent Bear King also began to support Winged Dragon. Although it and Winged Dragon had fought several times, there was no deep hatred between them. Instead, they had developed feelings for each other. It didn't want the mixed blood dragon to die just like that. Moreover, if it dragged this mixed blood dragon into the water, it wouldn't be said that it and the Fantasy Tiger King were the only followers in the future. This was also what the Violent Bear King was thinking. Fantasy Tiger King, Violent Bear King, do you think I'm the same as you? I won't become a human's follower. Dream on. However, Winged Dragon didn't seem to appreciate the Violent Bear King and Fantasy Tiger King's kindness. Instead, he continued to curse. However, at this moment, he didn't dare to curse the savage human at all. You're still yelling. The Phantom Tiger King kicked Winged Dragon again. His expression was one of exasperation. Could this mixed blood dragon not tell that he and the savage Bear King were trying to save his life? Fantasy Tiger, I'll leave this mixed blood dragon's life in your hands. If he doesn't want to become my follower after a while, I don't mind eating mixed blood dragon meat every day. Du Xiaofu said to the Fantasy Tiger King, then left to go to the Purple Flame Demonic Phoenix's side. The Purple Flame Demonic Phoenix glanced at Du Xiaofu and said, "Are you done? You've wasted quite a bit of time." Du Xiaofu knew that the Purple Flame Demonic Phoenix was talking about finding Little Star. He'd subdued the fantasy Tiger King and the violent Bear King, and fought Winged Dragon to draw attention to himself. Nodding, Du Xiaofu said to the purple flame demonic phoenix, "I also want to find Little Star as soon as possible." The purple flame demon phoenix seemed to have understood Du Xiaofu's intentions. Hence, she did not say anything else. "Let's go look for them as soon as possible. Although the commotion you've caused might not be useless, we still have to look for them. Whole Master, that mixed blood dragon has agreed to become a follower." After a while, in less than half an hour, the violent Bear King happily stepped forward and told Du Xiaofu that Ing Long had agreed to become his follower. "At least you know how to adapt to circumstances." Du Xiaofu revealed a smile in his eyes. In the beginning, he did not intend to kill this winged dragon. Otherwise, he would have done so long ago. There was no need to go through so much trouble. The winged dragon was only stronger than the Phantom Tiger King and the Violent Bear King, and it would be a great help to Du Xiaofu. How could he bear to kill it so easily? Facing the enormous divine light court, devil religion, and legalism, Du Xiaofu already knew that he could not rely on himself. The world society, the heavenly beast hall, and the desolate nation would be his greatest help in the future. Hence, after the Phantom Tiger King and the Violent Bear King submitted, he threw them into the heavenly beast hall. Sizzle, sizzle. Du Xiaofu's hand seal fell, and he began to unseal the winged dragon. "How did you persuade that mixed blood dragon? Why did it suddenly agree?" The Violent Bear King asked the Phantom Tiger King curiously. He did not participate in the persuasion just now. The Phantom Tiger King's eyes flickered with some pride. He said to the Violent Bear King calmly, "I did not say much. I only said that the Whole Master is Du Xiaofu, the Demon King who killed Dragon 9. If it really wants to die, the Whole Master will not mind killing it. If it is really capable, it can challenge the Whole Master in the future. Then, the Whole Master can become its battle servant. It is not a big deal to be the Whole Master's follower now. A great man knows when to yield." And then it agreed. The Violent Bear King was still suspicious. "Of course. Do you really think that guy is not afraid of death?" At first, it thought that no one would dare to offend all the dragons. However, the Whole Master even dared to kill the real Dragon 9. "Of course, it is afraid," the Phantom Tiger King said. "That is true. Everyone is afraid of death. Furthermore, it is not a waste to follow the Whole Master. Besides, it is strong enough. It can challenge back." The Violent Bear King smiled bitterly as if he was defending himself. He said, "A great man knows when to yield." Chi. Du Xiaofu's hand seals and runes flew out from his hand. The seal on the winged dragon's body was removed. The wounded winged dragon stood up and let out a low roar. Then, light spread out and turned into a young man in red tight clothes. He looked to be around 28 or 29 years old. Although the winged dragon's original body was ferocious, the human form he turned into was quite handsome. He looked at Du Xiaofu and asked, "Phantom Tiger King said that if I can defeat you in the future, you can become my battle servant. If you are not convinced, you can continue to challenge me. Before you defeat me, you are my follower." Du Xiaofu patted the winged dragon's shoulder and said, "I will call you Littling from now on. Although you are my follower, I will let you join the Heavenly Beast Hall temporarily. You will be an inner elder like the Phantom Tiger and the Violent Bear. I will tell you more about the Heavenly Beast Hall later. Why are they called the Phantom Tiger and the Violent Bear, and I am called Littling Ying?" The winged dragon stared at Du Xiaofu and asked. At least the Phantom Tiger and the Violent Bear sounded better. This Littling Ying was too hard for him to accept. As for challenging that ferocious guy, the winged dragon naturally did not dare to do so. After knowing the true identity of this young man, he was even more afraid. Du Xiaofu looked at the winged dragon and said seriously, "Because I feel that among the three of you, you should be the strongest. Therefore, your name should be the most special to prove your identity. That's true. Little Ying nodded, agreeing that he was stronger than the Phantom Tiger King and the Phantom Bear King. However, after nodding, there was a puzzled look in his eyes, as if he felt that something was wrong. But, the Phantom Tiger and the Violent Bear have a lot of followers. Why don't you have any? Du Xiaofu asked the Winged Dragon. He was slightly disappointed. If this little Ying could lead a group of beasts to submit, it would increase the strength of the Heavenly Beast Hall by a lot. I don't have the time for that. I alone am enough. The Winged Dragon was extremely proud. He had always been alone, so he could roam the beast region unhindered. In the future, you can take in a few more followers. In the future, whoever has the most followers will have the highest status. Du Xiaofu rolled his eyes at the Winged Dragon. Seeing Du Xiaofu's expression, little Ying was confused. He didn't know how he provoked this ferocious demon king. The Winged Dragon transformed into a human, followed by the Phantom Tiger King and the Violent Bear King. The Phantom Tiger King transformed into a muscular young man about the same age as the Winged Dragon. His clothes were covered in flaming runes, and his eyes shone brightly. The Phantom Bear King transformed into a muscular young man. He looked a bit older than the Phantom Tiger King and the Winged Dragon. However, the Phantom Bear King only looked older than the Phantom Tiger King. In reality, the three of them were about the same age. Seeing the Phantom Tiger King and the Violent Bear King transform completely into humans, the two beasts' followers followed suit. Each of them had their own unique characteristics. Whoosh, a moment later, Du Xiaofu, the Violet Flame Fiendish Phoenix, the Little Falcon, the Phantom Tiger King, and the Violent Bear King left. On the way back, the newly joined Winged Dragon was flabbergasted. He was flabbergasted by Du Xiaofu's speed in searching for treasures. That ferocious demon king seemed to be able to predict where spiritual herbs and natural treasures would appear. There was no record of him returning empty-handed. The Winged Dragon also saw what a real bandit was. Every time they found a natural treasure, if there were other demonic beasts around, the ferocious demon king would definitely snatch it away. Even the other demonic beasts' Qinquan bags would be snatched away. The most terrifying thing was that as long as the demonic beasts on the heavenly beast list participated in the snatching of natural treasures, they had no enmity with the ferocious demon king. Although Du Xiaofu didn't go all out, Du Xiaofu would still forcibly bleed them without exception. Layers upon layers of tall mountains leaned against each other. They stood tall and straight, illuminating the four seasons. In the depths of the mountain range was a winding, verdant primitive forest. The dense, towering trees were like giant umbrellas holding up the sky. The overlapping branches only revealed bits and pieces of the sun's shadow. Chapter 1255. Swoosh, swoosh. One figure after another passed through the forest. The sound of rushing wind added to the tranquility of the forest. In the depths of the primeval forest, although there were many Yao beasts in the heavenly beast tomb, this place was so remote that even birds of prey rarely flew here. Roar. Occasionally, one could hear the roars of distant beasts, which would then echo off into the distance. In the depths of the primeval forest, an enormous tree towered into the sky. It glowed with lustrous light and flashed with runes. However, the light was submerged in the depths of the primeval forest, making it difficult for living creatures to see it. This is it. So it's the reincarnation demon Ganoderma. Du Xiaofu's figure landed in front of the towering tree. He raised his head and smiled. At this moment, on one of the branches in the middle of the towering tree, there was a lingji grass that was the size of a baby. It was completely green, and it was rippling with radiance. Upon closer inspection, one would realize that the radiance on the towering tree was projected by this reincarnation lingji. Du Xiaofu could only sense the presence of such a heavenly treasure because of the mountain's pulse soul. The reincarnation demon Ganoderma was a heavenly treasure. The one in front of him was already the size of an infant. It must have been growing for at least 6,000 years, perhaps even longer. It looks like a reincarnation demon Ganoderma. The violet flame demonic phoenix landed in front of the towering tree. She gazed at the Ganoderma, her purple eyes rippling with radiance. The reincarnation demon Ganoderma is actually that treasure. Little Ying stared at the reincarnation demon Ganoderma on the towering tree, her eyes filled with deep shock. It really is a reincarnation demon Ganoderma. Rumor has it that after consuming it, not only will it increase one's strength, but more importantly, it will allow one to comprehend divine abilities and comprehend heaven and earth. The fantasy Tiger King was shocked. He knew the reincarnation demon Ganoderma's effects, so he was even more shocked. Reincarnation demon Ganoderma. How did the palace master find it? How could he find it in such a remote place? Treasures like this are rare. This reincarnation demon Ganoderma is probably thousands of years old. It's worth quite a bit compared to a Nirvana supreme grade medicinal pill. The violent bear king was stunned. He simply could not understand why that savage palace master would be able to find treasures everywhere he went. The purple flame demonic phoenix stood quietly, looking at the reincarnation demonic Ganoderma on the towering tree. Suddenly, the purple flame demonic phoenix seemed to have sensed something. It raised its head and looked into the distance through the layers of leaves. Almost immediately after the purple flame demonic phoenix, Du Xiaofu's gaze followed the direction of the purple flame demonic phoenix's gaze. He obviously felt something. Experts are coming. Du Xiaofu glanced to the side and immediately rushed towards the reincarnation demon Ganoderma on the towering tree. No matter who came, for Du Xiaofu, the most important thing was to get the reincarnation demon Ganoderma first. Suddenly, just as Du Xiaofu was about to pounce on the reincarnation demon Ganoderma on the towering tree, the reincarnation demon Ganoderma was about to fall into his hands. Coo! A sudden change occurred. A piercing bird cry resounded in front of the towering tree. A seven-colored flame incinerated the space. However, the flame did not materialize. It turned into a flaming halo that covered the reincarnation demon Ganoderma. It seemed to be protecting the reincarnation demon Ganoderma. Swoosh! At the same time, a seven-colored waterfall shot towards Du Xiaofu like a sharp lightning arrow. Boom! Wherever the seven-colored waterfall passed, a vast pressure descended. The power of the distorted space spread. It was so powerful that it could pierce through a transcendent martial venerable if they were not careful. At that moment, just the piercing cry of a bird was enough to make Little Ying, Little Falcon, Violent Bear King, Spiritual Tiger King, and the others tremble in fear. What a powerful beast aura! It's not inferior to the real dragons. The powerful aura rushed towards them. Under the piercing cry of the bird, Du Xiaofu immediately felt the immense pressure. Fuyao Heaven shaking wings. Du Xiaofu's eyes changed. He waved his hand and the Fuyao Heaven shaking wings flapped out. The golden light distorted the space and scattered the thunderous seven-colored waterfall. The seven-colored energy waterfall was enough to pierce through a transcendent martial venerable. With Du Xiaofu's current cultivation strength, it was not enough to threaten him. Swish! Du Xiaofu turned his palm into a claw, and a claw imprint shot out from his hand. An overbearing and terrifying aura swept out, and golden runes gathered like a golden-winged rock that was about to burst out, tearing the seven-colored light shield apart. Keep! Du Xiaofu stretched out his hand and grabbed the reincarnation demon Ganoderma. It was important to collect the heavenly treasure. He could not allow it to fall into the hands of others. Kid, this item already had an owner 2,000 years ago. Put it down. A faint voice suddenly sounded in Du Xiaofu's ear. The voice sounded gentle but was extremely sharp. A middle-aged man also appeared behind Du Xiaofu in a strange manner. There was clearly no aura fluctuation, but the surrounding space was immediately filled with a blazing heat. The surrounding green leaves began to wither. The towering trees withered and the ground began to crack. Even the primordial spirit began to burn. With the appearance of the middle-aged man, Little Falcon, Little Ying, Wild Bear King, Spiritual Tiger King, and the other demonic beasts felt an immense pressure. When the pressure descended, the Spiritual Tiger King and the others felt that it was definitely not inferior to Du Xiaofu's golden-winged rock. All of this happened in the blink of an eye, as fast as lightning. However, Du Xiaofu seemed to have been prepared for all of this. Boom! A terrifying aura instantly spread from Du Xiaofu's body, shaking the void. It was like the rumbling of wind and thunder as the aura surged and shook the void. Just as the middle-aged man finished speaking, Du Xiaofu suddenly turned his head around and shouted loudly, "Let's go!" Ao! This roar was like the roar of a dragon in the 9 heavens, like the cry of a divine elephant. Suddenly, a sound wave swept out like a tsunami and surged in all directions, causing the surrounding area in the depths of the primordial forest to tremble violently. Ao, 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 in that instant, the entire void rumbled. Countless roars echoed in the sky. It was extremely domineering, like a series of thunderclaps from the 9 heavens. Bang bang bang, the towering trees that had just withered under the unreasonably high temperature exploded one after another. The cracked ground exploded, and the mountain rocks were reduced to dust. The powerful sound wave almost caused the void to collapse and made one's heart tremble in fear. It was Du Xiaofu's domineering Dao. Dang dang! The surging sound wave, accompanied by the ripples of golden runes, spread out like a raging ocean, causing the middle-aged man's face to change color instantly. The middle-aged man did not expect the purple-robed youth to be so powerful. His body flickered with 7-colored light and was covered in 7-colored flames, but he was still forced to retreat more than 10 steps. How can this human be so strong? When the middle-aged man stabilized his body, his face was slightly pale. The sound wave that penetrated every orifice entered his ears and turned into a strange and domineering martial wave for no reason, causing the energy in his body to boil uncontrollably. His body was about to explode and the Yuan spirit in his mind was about to explode. What a powerful sound wave attack! The sound wave reverberated and destroyed everything within dozens of miles. The Raging Bear King, Little Ying, Little Falcon, and the Spiritual Fantasy Tiger King all trembled. What a terrifying sound wave attack! It contains a type of martial Dao. Not only can it attack the physical body, it can also attack the primordial spirit. At this moment, the Spiritual Fantasy Tiger King was deeply shaken by the terrifying sound waves. The Spiritual Fantasy Tiger King could also use the primordial spirit to attack, so it could feel the power of the sound wave the most. It was not a simple sound wave, but a type of martial Dao. The explosion reverberated, and the entire void trembled and began to calm down. An energy storm swept out, and the air waves spread into the distance. Du Xiaofu raised his eyes, and a cold look flashed in his eyes. He stared at the middle-aged man who had just appeared behind him and was about to attack. The middle-aged man looked to be in his 40s, and his aura exuded a supreme aura. His cultivation was actually at the level of a venerable origin beast. This middle-aged man's cultivation was clearly the same as the Raging Bear King, the Spiritual Fantasy Tiger King, and even Ying Long, but he gave off the feeling that he was much stronger than the Spiritual Fantasy Tiger King and the Raging Bear King. "You're here too." The purple flame demonic phoenix glanced at the middle-aged man and looked at the scorching aura that was spreading from afar. Its eyes flickered, and it seemed to know what was going on. Then, it calmed down. Whoosh! At the same time, there were many spatial ripples in the sky. Scorching heat waves filled the air. In the next moment, four colossal creatures wrapped in rolling flames pulled a carriage and flapped their wings as they flew over. Wherever they passed, white smoke spread in the air and scorching heat engulfed the earth. Blazing Fire Yuan, a member of the Phoenix clan. Du Xiaofu raised his head and looked at the four huge creatures. They looked like birds, but they were not. They were like the wind and the wan, and they were completely red. They were the blazing fire one that he had seen in the Tianhuang city. The blazing fire one was the mount of the Phoenix clan. Ordinary members of the Phoenix clan could not ride it. Chapter 1256. Could it be Huang Ling, or? Du Xiaofu raised his eyebrows slightly as he thought of Huang Ling, or. Back in the Tianhuang mainland, wherever Huang Ling, or appeared, there would also be four blazing fire wands pulling her carriage. Flap flap, in just a few flashes, the four blazing fire wands flapped their wings and appeared above the crowd, pulling a carriage that was engraved with mysterious runes. It had an ancient aura and shone with a seven-colored light. One could vaguely see that there was a beautiful woman sitting inside the carriage. In the air behind the carriage, there were many people with powerful auras. Many of them were human, but there were also many demonic beasts. All of them exuded a terrifying aura that made the Raging Bear King, Little Ying Ying, Little Falcon, Spiritual Tiger King, and the others almost go into hibernation as their bodies trembled. That aura is too strong. With a blazing fire wand as a mount, it's the Phoenix clan. The Spiritual Tiger King was stunned as he looked at the sky. There were several figures standing there, exuding a faint halo of fire. It was as if many fiery stars had descended. Their auras were very terrifying. It really seems to be Huang Ling, Du Xiaofu looked at the carriage. The woman sitting inside seemed to be Huang Ling, whom he had met in the Tianhuang mainland. Kid, the reincarnation demon Ganoderma has belonged to the Phoenix clan since 2000 years ago. Hand it over or die. The middle-aged man who had just been pushed back by Du Xiaofu's loud roar after calming down a little. His thunderous roar reverberated in the sky for a long time. The Spiritual Tiger King and the others shuddered when they heard the middle-aged man's roar. This was because the roar contained the endless ancient majesty of the Phoenix clan's bloodline. Hand it over to your grandma. I got the reincarnation demon Ganoderma. It's yours just because you say so. Du Xiaofu looked straight at the middle-aged man and cursed. So what if he knew it was the Phoenix clan? He had already offended the dragons. Du Xiaofu did not care about offending the Phoenix clan at this moment. It was absolutely impossible for Du Xiaofu to hand over the reincarnation demon Ganoderma. The middle-aged man was stunned when he heard Du Xiaofu's roar, as if he did not expect the Phoenix clan, the purple-robed demon Ganoderma, the purple-robed young man did not take it seriously. The reincarnation demonic Ganoderma was discovered by an elder of the Phoenix clan 2000 years ago when the heavenly beast tomb opened. The reincarnation demonic Ganoderma wasn't old enough at that time and the environment it grew in was rather special, making it difficult to transplant. Seeing that it was hidden, he set up a mark to wait for the next Phoenix clan member to come and harvest it. I didn't expect you to discover it. At this moment, a clear and melodious voice could be heard from within the carriage. The crisp sound of the door ornaments could be heard, and a graceful and beautiful woman slowly walked out of the carriage. The beautiful woman's face was dazzling. Her body was graceful, her skin was like snow, her lips were like cherry blossoms, and her spirit was like autumn water. Her temperament was so refined that there was not a trace of the mortal world. When this beautiful woman appeared, her eyes carried a smile as she looked at Du Xiaofu. Her red patterned pleated skirt revealed a snow-like soft chest. Her legs were long and slender, and a rainbow-colored belt wrapped around her waist, which was so thin that it could not be grasped with one hand, made her chest even more plump and full. The woman looked at Du Xiaofu quietly and smiled. She looked so dignified and noble, untainted by a speck of dust. She was indescribably ethereal and elegant. But then, the woman looked at the purple flame demonic phoenix with a puzzled expression. When she looked at the purple flame demonic phoenix, ripples flashed in her eyes. I didn't expect to see Sister Zixuan here. Greetings. The woman looked at the purple-flamed demonic phoenix. Under many surprised gazes, she was actually respectful to the purple-flamed demonic phoenix. It really is Huang Linger. It seems like she has some relationship with her. Du Xiaofu's eyes moved slightly. It really was Huang Linger from the Phoenix clan. Looking at Huang Linger's attitude towards the purple-flame demonic phoenix, the two of them definitely had some relationship in the past. Using his mind to probe, Du Xiaofu found that Huang Linger's aura was unfathomable. The more he probed, the more he felt that her aura was like a blazing deep hole. It was so deep that he couldn't see the bottom. It was impossible to see through it. As for Huang Linger, Du Xiaofu wasn't familiar with her, but he wasn't a stranger to her either. Huang Linger from the Phoenix clan had already made a name for herself in the Tianhuang mainland. Along with the dragons, Dragon 9, she was the leader of the 12 godly heroes. Dragons and phoenixes had always been on par with each other. Dragons and phoenixes had always had supreme bloodlines. Du Xiaofu estimated that Huang Linger's cultivation back then shouldn't be lower than Dragon 9's. Over the years, with the support of the Phoenix clan and the bloodline of the Sovereign Beast clan, Huang Linger's strength must have reached an extremely powerful level. You're welcome. I didn't expect you to come to the Heavenly Beast tomb too. The purple flame demonic phoenix nodded slightly. Looking at Huang Linger, her purple eyes were as calm as water. Compared to Huang Linger, her aura was a little less ethereal. But in terms of seductiveness, the purple flame demonic phoenix's aura was not something Huang Linger could compare to. From a man's point of view, the purple flame demonic phoenix had an additional charm that was more attractive to men than Huang Linger. This reincarnation demon Ganoderma is with Sister Zixuan, so it naturally belongs to Sister Zixuan. If I knew you were here, I wouldn't have come. Huang Linger said with a smile. Her voice was moving, and her smile was soul-stirring. You're welcome. The reincarnation demon Ganoderma that he took has nothing to do with me. If you want to take it back, it has nothing to do with me. The purple flame demonic phoenix said softly, as if this matter had nothing to do with her. Huang Linger also smiled and didn't care. She just looked at the purple flame demonic phoenix quietly, and then her scarlet eyes swept over Du Xiaofu. She said to Du Xiaofu with a smile, I didn't expect the demon king Du Xiaofu to also be in the heavenly beast tomb. It seems that the heavenly beast tomb will be very lively this time. It's useless to get acquainted with me. The reincarnation demon Ganoderma is already mine. Even if you want it, I won't agree. Just leave a mark and it will belong to your Phoenix clan. That doesn't count. Anyway, I won't acknowledge it. Du Xiaofu looked at Huang Linger and said. He secretly glanced at the many followers behind Huang Linger. At least half of them were humans, and they were obviously not ordinary battle servants. There were also many figures behind Huang Linger who seemed to be from the Phoenix clan. Their aura was not inferior to Little Ying, Violent Bear King, and the others. Du Xiaofu even saw a charming woman behind Huang Linger. Her aura was not much weaker than the purple flame demonic phoenix. However, this was not enough to make Du Xiaofu afraid. Anyway, there was a suppression in the heavenly beast tomb. No matter how strong she was, she couldn't leave. A treasure like the reincarnation demon Ganoderma naturally couldn't be handed over. There was no way. However, Du Xiaofu's words stunned the fantasy Tiger King, Violent Bear King, Little Ying, Little Falcon, and the others. That savage demon king was being a little more casual with Huang Linger, a member of the Phoenix clan. In the entire beast region, who would dare to be so casual with a member of the Phoenix clan? Everyone was in awe of her. At the very least, they would be refined and courteous. They wouldn't be as rude as Du Xiaofu. Huang Linger looked at Du Xiaofu. She didn't seem surprised at all when Du Xiaofu said those words. Her scarlet eyes flickered with a bright light. She smiled and said, if you want the reincarnation demon Ganoderma, then take it. It's yours. The reincarnation demon Ganoderma was mine to begin with. You're not giving it to me. If you're really giving it to me, you can give me something else. I definitely won't refuse. Du Xiaofu said seriously. If someone was giving him something, it would be a waste if he didn't accept it. Not to mention, it was a gift from a colossal and wealthy clan like the Phoenix clan. However, the reincarnation demon Ganoderma was his. Du Xiaofu couldn't let himself owe someone a favor for nothing. When she heard Du Xiaofu's last words, Huang Linger's eyes flickered. However, she still smiled and said, "Then let me give you a piece of news. I accidentally learned that the ghost chariot is looking for you. He's an extremely difficult guy to deal with. Be careful. We should have a chance to meet again. I hope you'll remember that you owe me a favor." As soon as she finished speaking, a crimson light flashed and Huang Linger's tall figure turned around. Her beautiful figure swayed like a boneless snake as she returned to the carriage with a moving curve. "Let's go." As Huang Linger's voice rang out, the four blazing flame wands flapped their wings and pulled the carriage away. Behind them, many figures followed. As for the middle-aged man who was pushed back by Du Xiaofu, although his eyes were cold, he could only turn around and leave. Before he left, he gave Du Xiaofu a heavy look. "That savage ghost chariot is also here." Hearing Huang Linger's words, Little Ying, Little Falcon, Wild Bear King, Fantasy Tiger King, and the others were all shocked. It was as if they had heard the most terrifying name. "Telling me a piece of news counts as a favor. I won't admit it." Du Xiaofu muttered as he looked at Huang Linger's carriage. Then, he turned around and looked at the stunned Fantasy Tiger King, Little Ying, and the others. He frowned and asked, "What's wrong with you guys? Are you afraid of that Huang Linger?" Chapter 1257. It's the ghost chariot. Don't tell me you don't know who that guy is. The Fantasy Tiger King asked Du Xiaofu in surprise. It was hard to believe that there was someone in the beast region who didn't know about the terrifying ghost chariot. Du Xiaofu shook his head. But the ghost chariot's name really was a bit frightening. "Hall Master, there's a vast wilderness in the beast region. There's a mountain in the wilderness called the North Pole. Seawater flows to the north, and there's a nine-headed god called the Nine Phoenixes. The ghost chariot belongs to the nine-headed Phoenix clan," Little Falcon said. Little Falcon said to Du Xiaofu. Hearing the name of the ghost chariot, his fear was no less than when he faced Huang Linger. "So it's the nine-headed Phoenix clan. When did I offend them?" Du Xiaofu finally understood why the Fantasy Tiger King, Savage Bear King, Rain Dragon, and Little Falcon's expressions had changed. The nine-headed Phoenix clan was a bloodline race that wasn't inferior to the dragons or phoenixes. It was just that their bloodline was so rare that it was hard to even see them. That was why it was so hard to hear about them in the outside world. But this also proved how powerful the nine-headed Phoenix clan was. The rarer a race's bloodline was, the more terrifying it was. Du Xiaofu also knew about the nine-headed Phoenix clan. The nine-headed phoenix was a nine-headed divine bird worshipped by the world. Its bloodline had existed since ancient times, and it definitely wasn't any shorter than the dragons or phoenixes. However, Du Xiaofu couldn't remember when he'd crossed paths with the nine-headed Phoenix clan. The nine-headed Phoenix clan is very powerful, but the truly terrifying one is the ghost chariot. Rumor has it that the ghost chariot is terrifyingly savage. His reputation is probably no less than yours. It's said that Dragon 9 was once defeated by the ghost chariot, but in the end, the Dragon 9 wasn't killed. The Fantasy Tiger King hesitated for a moment, his fierce eyes flickering. Perhaps the ghost chariot has its eyes on you. It might have something to do with you killing Dragon 9. What does it have to do with me killing Dragon 9? Why is it looking for me? Du Xiaofu's eyes widened. A guy who was able to defeat Dragon 9 back then naturally had terrifying strength. Because the people that Ghost Chariot didn't kill back then were killed by you, Palace Master. I think that to that terrifying Ghost Chariot, it must have felt that Palace Master had affected its reputation. The spiritual Tiger King looked at Du Xiaofu helplessly. He was well aware of the latter's strength, but he was still worried about the Ghost Chariot. This was because Ghost Chariot was an existence that had never been defeated among his peers. Back then, when he encountered Dragon 9, he was directly defeated. If you want to come, then come. Just don't provoke me. If you dare to provoke me, I won't be polite. The flesh and blood of the nine-headed phoenix will definitely be a great supplement. Du Xiaofu clenched his fists, a faint smile on his face. He raised his chin, looking a bit old and experienced, but also a bit confident. Du Xiaofu really was drooling over the nine-headed phoenix's flesh and blood. He really has guts. Once we encounter him, he won't even know who's going to win. The Fantasy Tiger King and the others were stunned. That savage guy really didn't fear the heavens or the earth. But then again, if he wasn't even afraid of dragons, the Ghost Chariot naturally wouldn't scare him. However, the Fantasy Tiger King, Little Falcon, Little Ying Ying, Wild Bear King, and the others knew exactly how savage the Ghost Chariot was. In all of the Beast region, the Ghost Chariot was definitely in the top 3 in terms of savagery compared to the Demon King. That's right. When the Heavenly Beast tomb opened, quite a few of you beasts rushed in. The dragons and phoenixes came as well. Why did you all come? What kind of treasure is there? Du Xiaofu asked the Illusion Tiger King and the others. The Heavenly Beast's tomb had opened, and the fortunes were huge. Other than the dragon race and the phoenix race, many other powerful races had entered. Apart from the Illusion Tiger King, the Violent Bear King, the Winged Dragon, the Heavenly Hound, and even the nine-headed phoenix race had entered. Du Xiaofu was convinced that the Heavenly Beast tomb was hiding astonishing treasures. Although he knew a bit about it, he didn't know much about it. He'd been in the Heavenly Beast tomb for quite some time now. Du Xiaofu could sense the mysteries of the Heavenly Beast tomb and was even more convinced that there was more to it than met the eye. Just the fact that the Heavenly Beast tomb could attract the dragons and phoenixes was enough to prove that there was more to it than met the eye. You don't know. The spiritual Fantasy Tiger King was flabbergasted when it heard Du Xiaofu's words. It seemed that this savage fellow had entered the Heavenly Beast tomb without knowing anything. How would I know? I'm not a beast. Du Xiaofu pursed his lips. He'd learned some things from the Cyan Feather Violent Blood Goose, but it wasn't enough to fully understand the Heavenly Beast tomb. The Heavenly Beast tomb is a legend in the Beast region. Rumor has it that it was the site of a great war in the ancient Beast region. Countless powerful beasts died there, but for some reason, the place was sealed and will only be opened at certain times. However, the Heavenly Beast tomb remains open for an indefinite period of time. It may be thousands or even hundreds of years, but no one knows for sure. You can only rely on your luck. It's said that there are many astonishing inheritances inside. Some of the top beast clans will send their descendants to fight for them. It's not surprising that the dragons and phoenixes enter the Heavenly Beast tomb, the Wild Bear King explained to Du Xiaofu. He'd entered the Heavenly Beast tomb in hopes of obtaining some inheritance that would allow him to advance further. Du Xiaofu nodded. This information was similar to what the Cyan Feather Violent Blood Goose had told him. Here, Du Xiaofu had also seen some demonic beasts that had obtained the inheritance. He himself had also obtained a piece of tiger bone. To the beasts, this was the equivalent of obtaining an inheritance. It is said that the core area of the Celestial Beast tomb has a terrifying restriction, but we beasts cannot enter. Only humans can enter. So, we have to search for powerful battle servants. Otherwise, we won't be able to compete with other beasts for opportunities, said the Illusion Tiger King. I know all that. What else do you want me to know? Du Xiaofu frowned. The Fantasy Tiger King's words were similar to what the Cyan Feather Violent Blood Goose had told him. Rumor has it that there is a heavenly beast hall in the core of the heavenly beast tomb. It contains countless ancient beasts' inheritances, including the dragons, phoenixes, and other powerful ancient races. Those inheritances might not even exist in the present day, said the Phoenix. She frowned and said, every time the heavenly beast tomb opens, there will be a storm in the beast region. That's why it attracts so many beasts. There was even a rumor that the one who obtained the heavenly beast hall would obtain the beast region. Unfortunately, it's been a long time and no one who entered the heavenly beast hall has ever come out. I wonder if the legendary heavenly beast hall really exists. Otherwise, the opening of the heavenly beast tomb would attract even more experts. The one who obtained the heavenly beast hall would obtain the beast region. When Du Xiaofu heard this, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Those words were so domineering. Then, his expression changed slightly and he muttered, Heavenly Beast Hall. Am I not the Hall Master? Little Ying, Little Falcon, Spiritual Illusion Tiger King, Violent Bear King, and the others could not help but look over when they heard the purple flame demonic phoenix speak. Just now, even Huang Ling from the Phoenix clan had respectfully addressed her as elder sister. Only then did they realize that the alluring woman in front of them, who had not spoken much, had such a great background. Also, the nine-headed Phoenix clan is indeed very powerful. Also, the pure-blooded Xiong Qis and Taotais are not to be trifled with. They're not much weaker than the dragons and phoenixes. The beast region is much more vast than you imagine. The purple flame demonic phoenix glanced at Du Xiaofu and continued, we should set off. Little Star entered the heavenly beast tomb and probably came for the heavenly beast hall. We can't find it now. Perhaps that little guy went straight to the core. Alright, let's go. Du Xiaofu nodded and soared into the air with the other beasts. Walala, along the way, Little Falcon was as fast as lightning. Little Ying Long, Fantasy Tiger King, and the other beast kings were just as fast as Little Falcon. Roar, along the way, they encountered many groups of ferocious birds and beasts. Their roars shook the mountains and rivers, and their ferocious eyes shone like stars. However, for some reason, they sensed the auras of Little Ying, the Phantom Tiger King, and the others, and did not dare to block their path. The heavenly beast tomb was vast and boundless, with layers upon layers of mountains stretching far into the distance. The number of Yao beasts in the area increased. Some fought for natural treasures, while others fought for the bones of Yao beasts. Du Xiaofu didn't participate in the search for natural treasures or bones. It wasn't that Du Xiaofu didn't care. To Du Xiaofu, even the smallest mosquito was meat. Chapter 1258. However, he had to find Little Star as soon as possible, so Du Xiaofu endured the pain and didn't participate. However, Du Xiaofu didn't mind spending some time to plunder the rarely seen heavenly materials and earthly treasures and the bones of powerful demon beasts. He was invincible, and there was no treasure that he couldn't snatch. And so, news of the demon king Du Xiaofu's appearance in the beast region and his mad plundering spread. The human demon king Du Xiaofu's bullying of the beasts in the heavenly beast tomb also provoked the wrath of many powerful Yao beasts. More and more powerful Yao beasts began to reach a consensus. They wanted to find the demon king Du Xiaofu and settle the score. They didn't hesitate to surround and attack him. News also spread in the heavenly beast tomb that the two dragon princes, Du Xiaofu and Dragon 7, were wantonly searching for Du Xiaofu. Anyone who provided information would be heavily rewarded. Anyone who could capture the demon king would even receive a powerful divine ability. When this news spread, it caused quite a commotion. Not bad, spirit-transforming void underworld grass. Let's go. Within a canyon, Du Xiaofu smiled and put away a spirit herb that pulsed with energy and fluorescent light. As soon as he spoke, he stomped his foot and transformed into a streak of golden light that landed on Little Falcon's back. Then, the group disappeared into the air. That's the Demon King Du Xiaofu. He's too savage. He actually dared to humiliate our beast region. Within the canyon, many large Yao beasts were drenched in blood. They were in a sorry state. It was obvious at a glance that they'd been ravaged to the extreme. They could only watch as the group left. Ha! A moment later, a group of figures circled in the air. It was Du Xiaofu and the others. Looking ahead, Du Xiaofu revealed a look of surprise and shock. Roar! In the surrounding void, there were many demonic beasts and some powerful demonic beasts that were rushing towards the front at an extremely fast speed. They were afraid that they would be slower by half a step. Hall Master, that should be the direction of the core region's heavenly beast hall. The Fantasy Tiger King said to Du Xiaofu. The surrounding Yao beasts were all looking ahead. Let's go to the left. Du Xiaofu's call soul, faintly, he sensed a different energy fluctuation in the left. If we go to the left, said the Wild Bear King, when we go to the core regions, the bears, said the Wild Bears, said. Don't worry, let's go to the left. Du Xiaofu hesitated for a moment before speaking to everyone with certainty. He had already made his decision. No, nigh of thee is an editor the group Elthy star the group and the demons the group whoosh. Whoosh. Not long after Du Xiaofu and the others left, space fluctuated, and then an extremely tall young man silently appeared in midair. Beneath his slightly tight crimson-red clothes, his perfect and vast figure was completely revealed. The young man looked to be in his late 20s. His hair was as red as blood and fire, and his temperament was outstanding. He was born with the aura of a king. Phew! The young man floated in midair and took a deep breath, as if he was searching for something. On his handsome face, his crimson eyes were sharp and deep, giving people a sense of endless pressure. The young man's scarlet eyes looked to his left as if he had sensed something. After which, his body directly disappeared into the sky, not even leaving behind a trace. Whoosh whoosh. Not long after the scarlet-robed young man left, there was the sound of wind being torn apart, and a large group of figures appeared in midair. Rumble. Their auras spread out and solidified the sky. Leading the group was a young man in a blue robe with shoulder-length blue hair, and another young man in battle attire. However, this large group of figures directly traversed the vast sky without stopping at all. Du Xiaofu gave directions to Little Falcon. Behind him, Phantom Tiger King, Violent Bear King, and Little Ying hurriedly followed. The surroundings were quiet, but there were still traces of demonic beasts. Some demonic beasts seemed to know that they couldn't compete with the powerful demonic beasts in the core area, so they simply came to the less popular areas to search for opportunities. Although there were fewer opportunities to search for opportunities, there were still some lucky fellows who came across some good things. Du Xiaofu followed the pulse spirit and felt the fluctuation, so he didn't stop. This area was quite large. After about an hour, with the speed of the beasts, they finally saw the end of the area. It was a vast cliff, as if the end of this space lay in front of them. It meandered into the distance like an ancient dragon, giving off an ancient vibe. There's nothing here. Phantom Tiger King looked around curiously. Below it was an endless primeval forest, and it didn't feel any fluctuations. However, before the Spirit Illusion Tiger King could finish speaking, it saw Du Xiaofu fly out under its astonished gaze. His body was wrapped in golden talisman runes that gave off a boundless aura. After which, his figure directly flew into the cliff in a strange manner. Rumble. As Du Xiaofu's figure flew in, the cliff seemed to be stimulated by something. Suddenly, a dazzling light surged out, and circles of spatial fluctuations rippled out. On Little Falcon's back, the purple flame demonic phoenix's purple eyes rippled as it followed in. It's a different world. Let's go in. Phantom Tiger King, Little Ying, Little Falcon, and Violent Bear King all followed in surprise. One figure after another flew into the fluctuating space. As everyone entered, the stimulated space began to calm down, and the light became dimmer and dimmer. Whoosh! A scarlet figure disappeared into the light as it dimmed. Whoosh whoosh! Du Xiaofu appeared in a vast space. There was a dense energy fluctuation. It was a huge square, incomparably vast. However, there was nothing around the square. It was as if there was nothing else in this space other than the huge square. The Phantom Tiger King, Little Falcon, Violent Bear King, and the others entered and looked at the vast square in astonishment. Why is there nothing here? This vast space was filled with an ancient aura, but it was empty. Be careful, there's an extraordinary guy coming. It should be the so-called ghost chariot. At this moment, the purple flame demonic phoenix's voice sounded in Du Xiaofu's ears. Du Xiaofu turned around at the same time. At the entrance, there was a spatial fluctuation, and then a scarlet youth appeared in the air. The young man's crimson hair was like fire and snow, and his bearing was extraordinary. On his handsome face, his crimson red eyes were sharp and deep, and he unconsciously gave others a feeling of endless pressure. Oh no, it's that terrifying monster. When the spiritual fantasy Tiger King, Little Ying, and the Violent Bear King's gazes landed on the young man, their eyes trembled violently. Their expressions changed, and their bodies trembled for no reason. Ghost chariot. Du Xiaofu's eyes looked at the young man. The young man had withdrawn his aura, but the invisible pressure around him caused Du Xiaofu's expression to harden. It was not difficult to feel that the invisible aura was vigorous and powerful, and it even contained a kind of ruthlessness. The youth's scarlet eyes swept across the crowd. He seemed to be familiar with Phantom Tiger King, Violent Bear King, and Little Ying, but he did not take them seriously. His gaze lingered on the purple flame demonic phoenix for a while. The youth looked a little confused and surprised. Finally, his sharp gaze landed on Du Xiaofu. You're Du Xiaofu, the one who killed Dragon 9. The youth looked straight at Du Xiaofu as he asked, his voice filled with a bloodthirsty sharpness. Ghost chariot of the nine-headed Phoenix clan? Du Xiaofu asked in return. He stood straight, and a faint golden light flickered in his clear eyes. Ghost chariot looked at Du Xiaofu. Other than his sharp gaze, there was not much expression on his face. When he opened his mouth, his voice was like a blade, as if everything was natural. It's good that you know who I am. Then I don't need to waste my breath. I'm lacking a battle servant. You should be the most suitable person to kill Dragon 9. Otherwise, your flesh and blood should be good enough to give me a lot of benefits. Don't provoke me. Otherwise, I'll chop off your 9 heads and stew them. Du Xiaofu stared at Ghost Chariot. Trouble had come knocking on his door for no reason. This put Du Xiaofu in a bad mood. Ghost Chariot did not speak again, and his expression did not change much. However, the moment a blood-red rune light surged in his eyes, his figure turned into a bolt of lightning, and a punch was thrown directly at Du Xiaofu. It was simple, direct, sharp, and ruthless. He attacked directly, and his power was terrifying. Boom! As Ghost Chariot's punch was thrown out, monstrous waves were set off in the calm space. With a great power, blood-red runes erupted and flooded a large area of space. It was as if a rain of blood was falling, covering the sky and earth. The terrifying power suddenly rippled through the ancient square, causing the Wild Bear King, Spiritual Tiger King, Little Ying, Little Falcon, and the others to immediately tremble. Xiaoyang Seal. Du Xiaofu counterattacked. His entire body was covered in golden light, and his palm was wrapped in dazzling golden light. He was domineering and powerful as he clashed with his palm. Chi la la. In an instant, the two of them collided. The space exploded, and runes flooded the space, dazzling and resplendent. However, the ancient square was not damaged at all. Under such a terrifying confrontation, blood-red runes flashed all over Ghost Chariot's body. The two of them did not move at all. They were on par with each other, and their eyes were filled with astonishment. Sky-shaking wings. While they were astonished, Du Xiaofu moved again. He stomped on the air and charged directly at Ghost Chariot. He opened and closed his hand, and a strange beast was fanned out. Golden light burst out, and layers of it swept out in all directions. The domineering momentum was extremely terrifying. Ghost Chariot also moved. He did not dodge, but clapped with one hand. Blood-red runes swept out, and the two of them collided, shaking the space until it lost its color. Bang, 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 the two figures collided in mid-air like lightning. In the blink of an eye, they had already exchanged more than 10 blows. The powerful collision was extremely fierce, and neither of them backed down. Chapter 1259. His body is too strong. Rumor has it that Ghost Chariot's body is on par with the dragon's. He lives up to his reputation. The Illusion Tiger King stared at the two figures fighting in the sky in shock. He knew he was no match for such a fierce battle. The Hall Master's body is the stronger one. Little Falcon's eyes trembled. The fact that he could directly face off against the rumored most ferocious beast in the beast region was proof of his strength. Ghost Chariot hasn't used his true body yet. When the time comes, he'll be at his strongest. His body will strengthen even more. Little Ying didn't disagree with Little Falcon, but he knew best that Ghost Chariot's true body was the strongest. The Hall Master hasn't used his full strength either, said Little Falcon. As for the purple flame demonic phoenix, it was quietly looking at the sky. There were some ripples in its purple eyes. Rumble. Another clash took place in the sky, shaking the surrounding space. Golden runes and scarlet runes flooded the sky. Thud thud. The two of them retreated at the same time. One's aura was domineering, the other violent, but both were equally fierce and intimidating. Whoosh! Ghost Chariot was enveloped in scarlet runes. He took a deep breath, then stared at Du Xiaofu, his scarlet eyes growing sharper. As Ghost Chariot took a deep breath, the Illusion Tiger King and the others sensed a terrifying, violent aura sweeping out from Ghost Chariot's body like a storm. Screech! When the violent aura swept out, a sharp screech could be heard from within the storm of energy. The Illusion Tiger King's expression changed once more. He's almost at the peak of the Origin Beast Sovereign. The Illusion Tiger King, Little Ying, and Little Ying's expressions changed the most. Ghost Chariot's aura had already reached the late stage of the Origin Beast Sovereign. Although they were all at the Origin Beast Sovereign level, there was still a huge gap between them. You're not weak at all. No wonder you could kill Dragon 9. You're the strongest human among the younger generation I've ever seen. You've even exceeded my expectations. You're qualified to be my battle servant. Gue Che stared at Du Xiaofu. On his handsome face, his scarlet eyes were filled with ruthlessness. I've changed my mind as well. Du Xiaofu stared at Ghost Chariot. His lips curled into a smile. Your Majesty, Your Majesty. Your Majesty, Your Majesty, Your Majesty, Your Majesty's Majesty's Majesty. No way, the Hall's Majesties names His Majesties. Gue Che is one of the most monstrous and ferocious of his generation in the Beast region. He's naturally arrogant and freakishly strong. The Palace Master really dares to speak. His Majesty's Majesty, S. Thus His Majesty's his to chooses Majesty S's His Majesty Majesty his Majesty his my's. Du Xiaofu clenched his fists. He stared at Ghost Chariot, raised his fist, and said calmly, my fists are my's qualifications. If you can defeat me, I'll become your battle servant. If I beat you to the ground, you'll be my follower. Do you have the guts? As Du Xiaofu's words left his mouth, the Spirit Tiger King and the others were astonished. Ghost Chariot's blood-red eyes flashed, and a ruthless aura erupted from him. All the beasts present could sense it. The space around the ancient plaza suddenly froze. The Spirit Tiger King, Majesty Bear King, and the others all knew that both the Demon King, Du Xiaofu, and Ghost Chariot were ferocious and terrifying existences. These two freaks would probably go all out in a battle. And this battle had already come with a bet. The loser would become the follower of the loser. Then, no matter who won or lost, the two of them would be together. They'd truly be able to sweep through their peers in the ancient region. The only question was whether or not Ghost Chariot would agree. Ha ha ha. Ghost Chariot laughed, and the ruthless aura in his blood-red eyes became denser. Then, blood-red runes erupted from his body. He looked straight at Du Xiaofu and said arrogantly, "All right, if you can defeat me, I'll be your follower. Unfortunately, you won't have the chance in this lifetime. Become my battle servant. You'll only know after you try." A smile appeared on Du Xiaofu's face as a terrifying aura suddenly gushed out from his golden eyes. His hand seals danced in the air, leaving behind afterimages. Berserk Dragon 9th Layer, borrow the power of Qian Dragon. Almost at the same time, Du Xiaofu shouted. A golden light burst out from his body and soared into the sky. It condensed into 4 huge dragon phantoms. Aoo! 4 gigantic dragon phantoms roared, and the dragon's roar filled the sky. They instantly transformed into 4 energy ribbons, and fell into Du Xiaofu's body like thunder. Boom! At that moment, Du Xiaofu's peak transcendent martial venerable aura soared like a rocket. His aura only stopped and it reached the mid-stage chaotic element martial venerable. Berserk Dragon 9th Layer, activating the power of 4 dragons. Du Xiaofu temporarily increased his strength, wanting to suppress Ghost Chariot. Du Xiaofu had no choice but to be serious after the probing exchange. Ghost Chariot was able to defeat Dragon 9th back then, which was enough to prove that he was not to be trifled with. Increase cultivation. The Palace Master has such a remarkable ability. Berserk Bear King, Little Ying, Little Falcon, Spiritual Tiger King, and the others were all surprised when they saw Du Xiaofu's soaring aura. If their cultivation were similar, the effect of a temporary increase in strength would be different. It's just a temporary increase in cultivation. It won't change anything. Ghost Chariot was not surprised. He looked at Du Xiaofu and stretched out his hands from his robes. His 5 fingers quietly fluctuated with blood-red light and runes spread out. Whoosh! In the next moment, Ghost Chariot's eyes surged with blood-red light. His figure flashed out like lightning. The chaotic element Venerable's aura gushed out without reservation. The blood-red light appeared in front of Du Xiaofu like a thunderbolt. A claw print directly grabbed at Du Xiaofu's chest. Whoosh! The claw print was as fast as lightning and as powerful as thunder. It distorted the void. Accompanied by the afterimages of electric arcs, it swept directly in front of Du Xiaofu. It was too fast, so fast that it was unimaginable. This speed made Du Xiaofu's eyes filled with surprise. Even Du Xiaofu felt that this speed was serious. Wave-like carefree steps. Everything happened so fast that it was difficult for Du Xiaofu to avoid it. However, he didn't panic at all. His figure drifted like a deity as he stepped out with the carefree steps. His figure was wrapped in the golden light and poured out in a strange arc. Just as Du Xiaofu's figure dodged, Ghost Chariot's claw was like a maggot in a tarsal bone. It pierced through the void and went straight for Du Xiaofu's throat like a shadow. At this moment, Ghost Chariot's attack was ruthless and sharp. It was extremely vicious. Obviously, Ghost Chariot was not only powerful, but also experienced in hundreds of battles. This kind of tricky and vicious attack was the most terrifying. Whoosh, the claw print separated and exploded the void. In an instant, it expanded in Du Xiaofu's eyes. The speed was too fast. Du Xiaofu fell behind and could only dodge. It was difficult for him to fight back. Boom! Golden light flashed. In a flash, the golden wings on Du Xiaofu's back flapped out. A terrifying aura suddenly swept out from his body. Flowing light overflowed and filled the air. It was like a rock flapping its wings. The airflow roared and shook. The momentum was terrifying. With the help of the golden wings, Du Xiaofu's figure quickly retreated. However, the former's sharp claw print still fell on his shoulder. Whoosh! When the claw print fell, purple lightning surged on Du Xiaofu's shoulder as he activated the immortal Xian body. The sharp claw print fell on Du Xiaofu's shoulder with a faint sound of metal. The red blood runes and the lightning collided and finally spread out from Du Xiaofu's shoulder. Whoosh! A piece of the purple robe was torn. On Du Xiaofu's flesh, there were 5 claw marks. Pale golden blood flowed out and dyed the purple robe around him. However, at the same time, the ghost chariot's pupils shrank slightly. There was a sense of uneasiness surging in him. He immediately retreated. Whoosh! A golden light burst out. The golden wings swept out like a rock spreading its wings. The golden runes spread out in a ring along with the terrifying ripples of energy. The ghost chariot's eyes moved. He turned his claw into a palm and collided with it. Boom! Such a collision caused a muffled sound in the air. It was like a thunder explosion. Large pieces of broken runes intertwined and swept away. Dang dang, the two retreated at the same time. It seemed that they were evenly matched. However, Du Xiaofu's left shoulder was already bleeding. It seemed that he was at a disadvantage. Flapping his wings to stabilize his body, Du Xiaofu's eyes were filled with golden runes. He was becoming more and more intimidating. Du Xiaofu stared at the ghost chariot. Not only was the ghost chariot ferocious, but it was also cunning and vicious. This was the most difficult thing to deal with. No wonder the Phantom Tiger King, Wild Bear King, and Little Ying Ying were all wary of it. What a strong physical body. The ghost chariot looked at Du Xiaofu with trembling eyes. For the first time, he truly realized how strong this human was. His physical strength was so strong that other demonic beasts on the heavenly beast ranking would not be able to withstand it. As for Du Xiaofu, as a human, he was only scratched a little. The strength of his physical body was too strong. In the air, the two of them exchanged blows again. Although it was only one move, it was cunning and ruthless. It was as fast as lightning and contained many variations. It could be said that there were thousands of changes in an instant. The Violent Bear King, Fantasy Tiger King, and the others could not take their eyes off it. As expected of the ghost chariot, he injured the shopkeeper with one move. Too strong. The spiritual Fantasy Tiger King was astonished. The spiritual Tiger King was very clear about the cultivation and defense of the Demon King, Du Xiaofu. Not to mention that he had just temporarily increased his strength. However, he was still injured by the ghost chariot in one move. It was enough to show how powerful the ghost chariot was. Look, the temple master is not injured at all. Little Falcon's eyes suddenly revealed a surprised look. At this moment, everyone also looked over when they heard the voice. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's body was emitting a purple-gold light. There seemed to be electric arcs fluctuating. Finally, the scratch mark on his shoulder that had just seeped out faint golden blood slowly recovered to its original state. It was extremely strange. Chapter 1260. How could this be? The Fantasy Tiger King, the Violent Bear King, and the others were all shocked. They had never seen such a strange scene. Du Xiaofu activated his immortal Xian body. What was originally a minor injury could be healed instantly. At that moment, Du Xiaofu's face turned serious as well. The ghost chariot was truly not to be underestimated. It was ruthless, crafty, decisive, varied, and vicious. Clearly, it had been tempered through bloody battles. You're quite capable. You're exceeding my expectations. In the void, Ghost Che smiled faintly at Du Xiaofu. He knew very well how powerful his claw was. If it were a human cultivator of the same level, even if he had grabbed their shoulder, it would have been enough to severely injure them. At least one of their arms would have been crushed. However, Du Xiaofu was completely unharmed. This was too abnormal. It was enough to show how terrifying his physical body was. You're also beyond my expectations. Du Xiaofu also smiled faintly. His clear eyes surged with golden light, and the great pin golden wings on his back flapped. At the same level, not to mention that he had even activated the Nine Heavens Berserk Dragon, this was the first time Du Xiaofu had suffered a loss in a fight. Very strong. At the same level, compared to the Violent Bear King and the Fantasy Tiger King, you're a full level stronger. As expected of a bloodline comparable to the dragons and phoenixes. In his heart, Du Xiaofu sighed inwardly. The Ghost Che before him was the most difficult opponent of the same level he had encountered so far. It seems to be closely related to the Great Golden-Winged Rock clan. If you weren't definitely human, I would have thought you were from the Great Golden-Winged Rock clan. You dare to merge with the Great Golden-Winged Rock clan's golden wings. You're quite bold. Ghost Che looked at the Great Golden-Winged Rock clan's golden wings on Du Xiaofu's back. At a glance, he saw some of the mysteries of the Great Golden-Winged Rock clan's golden wings and was secretly shocked. Du Xiaofu did not say anything. He activated the Berserk Dragon Ninth Heaven. There was a limit to how long he could improve his cultivation, so he had to end the battle quickly. Hand seals began to condense in his hands, and a strange and violent energy fluctuation suddenly rippled in the air around Du Xiaofu. In the next moment, strands of golden and silver-white energy that seemed to have materialized suddenly seeped out from the void around Du Xiaofu, causing the space to slightly distort at this moment. Suddenly, one of Du Xiaofu's palms shone with golden light, while the other shone with silver light. One yin and one yang, one hard and one soft. The golden palm print was as dazzling as gold. Strange silver-white runes appeared on the silver-white palm, as if layers of silver-white lightning were lingering around it. The Tao of heaven and earth uses yin and yang to create all things. Heaven and earth, sun and moon, thunder and lightning, wind and rain, male and female, hard and soft, movement and stillness. All things are divided into yin and yang, Du Xiaofu mumbled, controlling the two hand seals to merge. The qi in his body fluctuated, connecting with the energy of heaven and earth. As the two hand seals were condensed, Du Xiaofu's hands seemed to contain yin and yang, tai chi, for divisions, 8 directions. Looking at Du Xiaofu's action in the air, Ghost Che was curious at first, so he didn't pay much attention to it. However, as he felt the energy fluctuation, Ghost Che's face began to change quietly. A dangerous energy fluctuation began to spread out from the air in front of him. The energy fluctuation was so terrifying that it made Ghost Che's eyes ripple. He stared at Du Xiaofu's hands in front of him. A golden palm print and a silver-white palm print gradually merged together smoothly. As the two palms merged, a frightening might soared in an instant. An absolutely frightening and dangerous energy ripple spread from the palms. That terrifying power caused Ghost Chariot's blood-red eyes to become even more serious. Strike first and gain the upper hand. At that moment, Ghost Che made his move. Energy rippled around him. The terrifying aura of a origin beast sovereign was revealed without a doubt. He looked down on his peers in the beast region. Ghost Che's figure shot out, pouncing like a ghost towards Du Xiaofu, who was in the middle of forming the hand seals. A powerful, violent energy swept out, twisting the space around him into nothingness. Pfft! Blood-red light wrapped around his fist, containing violent energy. Ghost Che made his move. His fist rumbled as it exploded with energy. In an instant, it blasted towards Du Xiaofu. Boom! The two seals had already merged. The lunar seal and the Shaoyang seal overlapped smoothly for the second time. Go! Du Xiaofu roared. He stomped his foot on empty air. Instead of retreating, he advanced. The merged palm print in his hand immediately slammed towards Ghost Che. As the palm print shot out, it shone with dazzling gold and silver light. It was translucent and beautiful. It grew with the wind, instantly becoming hundreds of feet tall. A terrifying, destructive power emanated from it, blotting out the sky and crushing down. Everything happened in an instant. Under everyone's shocked gazes, the two attacks collided. The two energy runes instantly erupted and exploded. Numerous thunder-like explosions resounded across the clouds. Rumble. Violent energy exploded. The strange, ancient plaza trembled under the sound of the explosion. The energy tore through space high up in the sky. It was a terrifying sight. Such a terrifying collision, the power of the collision was so strong. The beasts were stunned. Du Xiaofu's terrifying palm print destroyed everything. It enveloped Ghost Che as easily as crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. The storm of energy swallowed him up. Too strong. Even an ordinary peak origin beast sovereign would be reduced to ashes if they were hit. What a domineering martial technique. It seems more like a divine ability. The Wild Bear King, Fantasy Tiger King, Little Ying Ying, and the others watched the terrifying commotion in the sky. Their throats burned and they gulped. Ghost Che was actually at a disadvantage. Ghost Che's figure was enveloped by the storm of energy and was drowned out. Du Xiaofu stepped into the air with a domineering aura. His face was slightly pale. If it was an ordinary person who fused two seals, it would be enough to exhaust all their profound qi. It would be difficult for them to fight again. However, Du Xiaofu had the huge divine watchtower in his body. It was not a big problem. However, the consumption just now was absolutely huge. Du Xiaofu did not dare to do it again. Du Xiaofu was very satisfied with the power of the two seals of the mysterious four-elephant seal. Even if it was compared to his tyrannical fist path, tyrannical qi path, and so on, it was still a little stronger in terms of power. However, looking at Ghost Che drowned in violent energy, Du Xiaofu did not relax. He vaguely felt that Ghost Che would not be so easy to deal with. Screech. Suddenly, there was a screech in the storm of energy. Blood-red runes exploded like the sun. As the screech fell, a monstrous blood-red energy swept out from the storm of energy. As the monstrous blood-red light burst out, a huge creature appeared. It was a bird that looked like a phoenix and a swan. It was a few hundred feet tall and its body was glowing with blood-red light. However, it had 9 ferocious heads. Screech, screech, the 9 heads of the huge creature screeched, and the sound waves reverberated in all directions. It was enough to shock the heavens and earth and make ghosts and gods weep. It made the Wild Bear King, Fantasy Tiger King, and the others' primordial spirits tremble. Little Falcon and the others were about to crawl under the simultaneous screech of the 9 heads. 9-headed Phoenix. Du Xiaofu looked at the huge creature in front of him. It was the true form of the 9-headed phoenix of the ghost chariot. It was covered in resplendent feathers and covered in strange blood-red talisman patterns. Its aura was extraordinary. You're the first transcendent martial saint to make me use my true body. But now, it's all over. The 5th head in the middle of the ghost car was the largest. Its voice was cold and ruthless as 18 pairs of blood-red eyes looked down at Du Xiaofu. The astonishing energy from its body was enough to make a primordial chaos martial supremacy tremble in fear. What a powerful 9-headed phoenix's true body. It's indeed comparable to dragons. Looks like I can only use my full strength. Du Xiaofu looked at Ghost Che, who had already activated his true body. It was as if he was about to use his power. The fusion of the two seals could not do anything to him. He could only use his full strength. Faint purple runes covered Du Xiaofu's body. Then, dazzling purple-gold lightning bolts suddenly surged out of his body. Lightning martial vein. In the next instant, Du Xiaofu's golden eyes began to be suffused with purple lightning. Suddenly, with his body as the center, waves of purple lightning also appeared in the empty space of the ancient square, instantly covering the entire space. Boom! The purple lightning gathered and instantly caused the ancient square to shake violently. The bright blood-red runes on Ghost Che's body were also weakened a little. Chapter 1261. Purple electric arcs spread across the sky like purple-silver snakes flashing in the void, their aura vast. A murderous aura spread out. It didn't carry any murderous intent, but it had the majesty of creation and the righteousness of heaven and earth. It was as if it could shake the heavens and punish all living things. At this moment, the purple flame demonic phoenix was looking at Du Xiaofu, its purple eyes glowing brilliantly. "Whole Master, what kind of martial vein is that? Such terrifying lightning power." As Du Xiaofu's lightning martial vein was activated, Little Ying, Violent Bear King, and Spiritual Tiger King's expressions changed drastically, their eyes filled with shock. At this moment, Spiritual Tiger King and the others could feel how terrifying Du Xiaofu's martial vein was. The lightning martial vein's aura was even more frightening to them than the ghost chariot's aura. At this moment, Spiritual Tiger King and the others finally realized how easy it was for the Demon King to trample them back then. If the Demon King had directly activated his martial vein, they wouldn't have been able to resist at all. What a powerful martial vein! Ghost Chariot also felt how terrifying Du Xiaofu's martial vein was. Its 18 pairs of scarlet eyes were terrifying. Without any delay, its huge body charged towards Du Xiaofu. The terrifying scarlet rune energy shook the space, as if it could tear apart mountains and rivers. Ghost Chariot flapped its wings, its energy sweeping out like a storm, earth-shattering. The body of the nine-headed phoenix was enough to destroy everything. Purple lightning flashed around Du Xiaofu's body. Electric arcs struck the void around him, and the golden wings on his back flapped, purple gold lightning surged, sweeping away the scarlet energy. Gee! The nine-headed phoenix screeched, and its huge body swooped down. Its huge body was a vast power, and its energy waves crushed everything. Du Xiaofu wasn't afraid. Although his body was relatively small, his aura didn't pale in comparison. The purple lightning in his eyes seemed to materialize as it rushed out. Just as the nine-headed phoenix's enormous body was about to collapse, Du Xiaofu suddenly flapped his wings, and purple lightning surged out of his body. The purple electric arcs gathered into a thunderbolt, and the purple lightning swept across the sky, forcing the nine-headed phoenix to retreat. At this moment, such a battle caused the hearts of the Fantasy Tiger King, the Violent Bear King, and the others to tremble, and they were extremely shocked. At this moment, only now did he truly know how terrifying Ghost Chariot and Demon King Du Xiaofu were. Gee, the nine-headed phoenix attacked again. Its 9 heads cried out in unison, and then all 9 heads opened their mouths at the same time, spewing out 9 scarlet runes of energy. The scarlet blood runes were like a boundless sea of blood. They were actually able to resist Du Xiaofu's purple lightning. The scarlet runes of energy pierced through the air, enveloping Du Xiaofu. They wanted to drown Du Xiaofu and suppress Du Xiaofu. In an instant, the scarlet runes of energy blotted out the sky like a sea of blood. They drowned Du Xiaofu, and the lightning around him gradually disappeared. Not good. The Whole Master is being suppressed. In his human form, the Violent Bear King was astonished. His eyes trembled with fear. At this moment, the Violent Bear King felt that he didn't even have the power to interfere in this terrifying battle. The Ghost Chariot is too strong. Aside from his true form, he's never been defeated by anyone of the same level in the Beast region. Otherwise, he wouldn't have tortured Dragon 9. The fantasy Tiger King's fierce eyes trembled. The ghost chariot was really too terrifying. The Hall Master isn't easy to deal with either, said Little Ing. Little Ing replied. His gaze was fixed on the battlefield, unable to take his eyes off of it. He was afraid that he would miss something. Crackle. Suddenly, a wave of domineering energy rippled through the scarlet blood sea. Arcs of purple lightning rose and fell like an ocean. Dazzling purple lightning runes surged in all directions. At this moment, a domineering aura began to seep out from the scarlet sea. It shot out a purple gold light that shot into the sky of the ancient space. It was as if the sun was about to rise in the ancient space. Crackle. Everything happened very quickly. In the blink of an eye, dazzling purple gold lightning filled the air. An enormous, purple gold, golden-winged rock image flapped its wings and soared into the sky from the scarlet runes. The purple gold rock silhouette enveloped Du Xiaofu's figure and seemed to fuse with it. It soared into the sky as if it had transformed into a real golden-winged rock. Screech. The purple gold thunder rock screeched and spread its enormous wings. Purple gold lightning sparkled all over its body. Its ferocious aura spread out, causing the entire ancient space to tremble. Such power. What kind of ability is this? The spiritual fantasy Tiger King and the violent Bear King were shocked. The energy in their bodies froze. Break. The purple gold thunder rock flapped its wings and broke through the scarlet blood sea. It was as if it was going to soar into the firmament. The crimson eyes of the nine-headed phoenixes stared intently at the purple gold, golden-winged rock that was enveloped by Du Xiaofu. A violent and destructive pressure seemed to cause the entire space to tremble. It was shocking to the soul as it pounced forward once again. Facing the nine-headed phoenix, Du Xiaofu's eyes shot out purple gold lightning. They were like two suns in the sky, overlooking the world. He didn't back down and directly clashed with the nine-headed phoenix. Rumble. The two enormous, terrifying bodies collided, causing explosions in the void. In an instant, they exchanged several blows. At that moment, Du Xiaofu activated the golden-winged rock's ability and merged with the lightning martial vein. He felt as if he was the real golden-winged rock, soaring in the firmament. He could control the supreme power and release boundless domineering aura. Screech. The nine-headed phoenix shrieked. Its crimson runes covered the sky and earth. Its ferocious aura surged. Whether it was its physical body or its attack power, it was extremely terrifying. Among those of the same cultivation level, Ghost Chariot was indeed an invincible existence. The nine-headed phoenix's body was comparable to dragons. It was a terrifying bloodline from ancient times. However, Ghost Chariot had encountered Du Xiaofu at that moment. Back then, in the Hehuan school, he had turned the tables and stepped into a transcendent martial venerable in a desperate situation. With the blood of the heavenly beast list and the blood of the dragon 9, he had cleansed his bones and cleansed his marrow. He had stepped into the realm of refining his divine body. At that moment, Du Xiaofu had activated the wild dragon 9's heavenly times. With the help of the heaven dragon's power, he had stepped into the chaotic element martial venerable realm, which was equivalent to Ghost Chariot's cultivation level. When had Du Xiaofu ever lost to someone of the same cultivation level? Back then, Du Xiaofu had killed the Dragon 9 before they were at the same level. At that moment, the nine-headed phoenix didn't even know that if Du Xiaofu was only focused on winning and didn't want to take the opportunity to temper himself, activate the power of talismans, and use the power of talismans to defeat Ghost Chariot, he probably wouldn't have to use all his strength. Facing Ghost Chariot, Du Xiaofu used all his strength. His fists hit flesh as they collided. Vigorous power surged in Du Xiaofu's body. His every move could subdue dragons and tigers, crush the void. It was incomparably carefree and domineering. Fight, Du Xiaofu became more and more courageous as he fought. From time to time, he would roar loudly. The huge ghost chariot nine-headed phoenix's main body was also shocked and ferocious under Du Xiaofu's true golden-winged great rock supreme aura. Even with its full strength, it was still forced back. If it wasn't for the fact that the ghost chariot nine-headed phoenix's body was also abnormal, it probably wouldn't have been able to hold on. Nine-headed phoenix cry, blood phoenix soul annihilation. After retreating again, ghost chariot roared. His voice was accompanied by a terrifying power that seemed to be able to penetrate the origin spirit. The sound also carried a bloody light. Walala, suddenly, a bloody rune covered the nine-headed phoenix's body, as if it had turned into a bloody nine-headed phoenix. The scarlet light on its body was resplendent. The ghost chariot's 18 pairs of bloody eyes looked disdainfully, emitting a blazing bloody mist. It was extremely terrifying. Squeak, the nine-headed phoenix's nine head screeched again. This time, the cries were synchronized and pierced through the void. The voice carried an extremely terrifying will that spread in all directions. This will was contained in the voice, and when it landed in the hearts of the crowd, it caused their hair to stand on end for no reason. That terrifying will then spread throughout their bodies, causing their origin spirits to tremble. For some reason, they felt that the world was about to collapse and that it was the end of the world. The voice contained a terrifying will that could destroy everything. It was unstoppable. Ft. Ft. Raging Bear King, Fantasy Tiger King, and the beast men behind Little Ying all spat out blood for some reason. Their faces were pale, and even Little Falcon's mouth was bleeding. That terrifying voice contained a will that spread throughout their bodies. Just by being affected by it, they were unable to resist it. Chapter 1262. Nine-headed phoenix cry, blood phoenix soul annihilation. This is the great ability of the nine-headed phoenix clan. It can destroy all will. Ghost chariot is going all out. What a terrifying great ability. Even we can't defend against it. Ghost chariot is too scary. Spiritual Tiger King, Violent Bear King, and Little Ying were shocked. Ghost chariot was too strong. The last attack only affected them, but it was already hard for them to defend. The sound contained will. It was a terrifying attack that could destroy one's primordial spirit. Du Xiaofu was attacked directly. His purple lightning eyes paused for a moment, but they recovered in a short moment. Inside Du Xiaofu's Naiwan palace, there were two types of spiritual thunder soul seeds and the primordial spirit fused together. It was too difficult for external forces to affect Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit. Ghost chariot was able to affect Du Xiaofu's primordial spirit for a moment, which was enough to prove how terrifying that attack was. However, Ghost chariot was facing an existence even crazier than him. You're going all out. Then it's over. This was a rare opportunity, so Du Xiaofu shouted. The ghost chariot had used all its strength, so it must have consumed a lot of energy. It looked at the huge nine-headed phoenix in front of it, and purple gold lightning seemed to materialize in its eyes. Its huge body shot out, and it was as fast as lightning. In the next moment, Du Xiaofu's figure walked out from the huge purple gold thunder rock. However, he was still wrapped in dazzling purple gold lightning arcs. His tall figure slowly walked out from the shadow, and the purple gold thunder rock's shadow dissipated at the same time. From the tall figure's body, a supreme aura spread out, suppressing heaven and earth. This supreme aura was extremely powerful, sweeping across the sky. It couldn't be provoked, and it also carried the power of execution. Break! A sinister smile appeared on Du Xiaofu's face. Purple gold lightning shot out from his eyes like two purple gold suns. High up in the sky, 9 purple gold lightning bolts gathered to form 9 purple gold lightning bolts. They strangely landed on the 9 heads of the 9-headed phoenix. The murderous and destructive aura caused the space to rumble. Rumble! The purple gold lightning fell, and lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. Gee, the nine-headed phoenix released a miserable cry. It was struck by lightning until its entire body began to tremble. It was a tragic sight, and its 9 heads released a scorched black aura. The bloody radiance was shattered by the lightning. Du Xiaofu's figure appeared on the back of the 9-headed phoenix, his gaze cold. Ping descends to the 9 heavens. The great rock's golden wings flapped behind him, powerful and domineering. At this moment, Du Xiaofu was like a rock descending from the sky. He spread his wings and swept across the sky, suppressing the 9-headed phoenix. Domineering and fierce, I, the unique and righteous. G. The 9-headed phoenix's 9 heads screeched, and bloody runes erupted. Its aura overflowed into the heavens and engulfed the vast sky. It wanted to break free from Du Xiaofu's suppression. Du Xiaofu flapped his wings and suppressed the attack with all his might. Purple lightning surged out from his body. Rumble. Such a collision was like a thunderclap in midair, and it erupted with a string of dazzling talisman markings that were gorgeous like fireworks, causing the entire sky to be covered in dazzling light. Behind this resplendent light, there was an energy of destruction, causing the space around the ancient plaza to tremble. Crackle. The stalemate did not last long. After the violent collision in midair, the sound of the sky shattering could be heard. Then, the 9-headed phoenix's body was crushed, and the bloody light on its body was destroyed by the golden talisman markings. The 18 blood-red eyes were filled with shock. The 9-headed phoenix spurted out fresh blood at the same time, and its eyes were filled with disbelief and shock. Bang, bang. The 9-headed phoenix's huge body fell to the ground, causing the ancient space to tremble. However, this strange ancient plaza did not crack at all. You've lost. Du Xiaofu spoke as he stepped on the 9-headed phoenix's huge body. His entire body was emitting a purple-gold light that distorted the void. Dream on, when have I ever lost? Che Gui shouted as he struggled with all his might. Humph. Du Xiaofu snorted, and coldness flashed across his eyes. Then, the crowd heard a loud bang in the sky. A fist wrapped in purple-gold lightning runes violently hammered one of the 9-headed phoenix's ferocious heads. Bang! With a low explosion, energy surged, and bloody light filled the sky. One of the ferocious heads of the 9-headed phoenix was directly blasted apart by Du Xiaofu's punch. Screech, the 9-headed phoenix screamed. One of its heads was destroyed, and that was a serious injury. You've lost. From now on, you'll be my follower. If you go back on your words, you'll have to bear the consequences. Du Xiaofu spoke in a domineering manner. Apart from the pulse spirit, only his martial arts level and full strength could do anything to Che Gui, which shocked Du Xiaofu. These demonic beasts with ancient bloodlines were not to be trifled with. Among the beasts, it was not only the dragons and phoenixes that were difficult to deal with. Screech, the 9-headed ghost chariot phoenix let out a low screech, and its voice became softer and softer. Its blood-red eyes fluctuated, as if it was in deep thought, shock, and acquiescence. But at this moment, Che Gui's eyes were filled with the fact that he could not accept the fact that he had lost. Screech, at this moment, the spiritual Tiger King, Little Ing Ying, Little Falcon, Violent Bear King, and the others felt their throats burning. They weren't too surprised by Du Xiaofu's victory. That ferocious fellow was terrifying to begin with, but they couldn't help but feel shocked in their hearts. Che Gui has also lost. From now on, he will also be the Palace Master's follower. The spiritual Tiger King's eyes were filled with a smile. Che Gui had also become the Palace Master's follower. When the news spread out, it would look much better for him. Screech, jumping down from the 9-headed phoenix's back, Du Xiaofu withdrew his golden rock wings and thunder martial vein. His face was extremely pale, and he had used up a lot of energy. Sweeping his gaze across the square, Du Xiaofu saw the spiritual Tiger King, Little Falcon, Violent Bear King, and the others' shocked expressions. He saw the purple flame demonic phoenix searching for something in the distance. This place is very strange. Did you find anything? Du Xiaofu appeared beside the purple flame demonic phoenix and asked. There was nothing else in the square, and they could not even find the exit. At this moment, Du Xiaofu's mountain martial vein spirit could sense the energy fluctuations and enter, but it could not find the exit. This place is very strange. The purple flame demonic phoenix shook her head. She seemed to have known the result of the battle between Du Xiaofu and Che Gui. She began to search around, but to no avail. What is this place? Du Xiaofu looked around and secretly used the power of his mountain martial vein spirit, but to no avail. 2 hours later, Du Xiaofu appeared in the center of the square. He had completely given up on searching. This vast square was too strange. After entering, they did not know how to leave. What should we do now? Du Xiaofu asked the purple flame demonic phoenix with a serious expression. You came in by yourself. Should you ask yourself? The purple flame demonic phoenix looked at Du Xiaofu. Her purple eyes were cold, and she said, if something happens to little star outside, I will not let you go. I will find a way to leave. Du Xiaofu smiled bitterly. This place was very strange, but he could not find anything. Let me rest for a while. Help me keep an eye on things. Du Xiaofu looked at Che Gui, who had already turned back into his human form. He was sitting cross-legged, and his body was covered in red light. He was meditating. Du Xiaofu was a little worried. If Ghost Chariot recovered and attacked again, it would be hard to suppress him if he didn't adjust his breathing to recover. You better find a way to leave as soon as possible. The purple flame demonic phoenix said. Du Xiaofu did not say anything. With the purple flame demonic phoenix here, he did not have to worry about anything. He sat cross-legged and hesitated. Then, he took out an item from his Qinquan bag. That item was the size of a baby. It was emerald green and shining. It was the reincarnation demonic Ganoderma. Rumor had it that after eating it, not only would it increase one's strength, but more importantly, it would also allow one to comprehend abilities and understand the heaven and earth. As Du Xiaofu took out the reincarnation demonic Ganoderma, the spiritual Tiger King, Violent Bear King, and the others were confused. Eat it. Du Xiaofu opened his mouth and swallowed the infant-sized reincarnation demon Ganoderma in just a few mouthfuls under the confused gazes of the Violent Bear King and the others. He ate the reincarnation demonic Ganoderma just like that. The Violent Bear King, Spiritual Tiger King, and the others were stunned. That ferocious demon king had just swallowed the reincarnation demonic Ganoderma. He was even more of a beast than a demonic beast. In the vast space, the mountains were connected, rising and falling. The mountains overlapped with each other, and the mountain paths were winding and dangerous. Within the deep and serene gorge, an unfathomable dense mountain aura rose. It was like a mysterious veil, causing the vast mountain range to have a different kind of atmosphere. At this moment, in front of the continuous mountain range, one could see mountain ranges rising and falling. They overlapped and surrounded each other, revealing countless ferocious beasts that occupied the surroundings. From time to time, he could see some powerful ferocious birds and ferocious beasts massacring some weaker demonic beasts. Some powerful demonic beast kings were also ambushing each other. Coo! An extremely sharp miserable cry was transmitted from the distance. 1,000 feet large ferocious bird was actually lifted into the sky by an enormous crimson fire python. Its bloody mouth swallowed the bird. Swish, suddenly, the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. A huge bear ape pounced, and its huge palm landed on the vital point of the crimson fire python. The crimson fire python was extremely powerful. The runes it released distorted the space around it, but it was no match for the huge bear ape. Its body was torn into two. Countless demonic beasts gathered, but danger lurked everywhere. Killing intent was everywhere. There's danger everywhere. Is the heavenly beast palace about to appear? On a mountain peak, a young man stood. His clothes were as white as snow, and his skin was as translucent as jade. His long hair hung on his shoulders, and under his thick eyebrows was a pair of eyes that seemed to contain the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. They seemed to contain no impurities, clear and bottomless. The young man's eyes were like spring water, and his temperament was as gentle as the wind. It was indescribably otherworldly. Master, Huangling, the Dragons 7 and 8, and the Purple Star Demonic Dragon Emperor seemed to be in front. A huge demonic eagle flapped its wings and appeared behind the young man. An invisible aura spread out, solidifying the void. It was extremely powerful. Hide from those guys. When the heavenly beast palace appears, I'll think of a way to go in. The young man frowned. His face was handsome, and his nose was sharp. He was absolutely afraid of those beasts. It said that the Purple Star Demonic Dragon Emperor is also looking for the Demon King Du Xiaofu. The demonic eagle's sharp eyes showed absolute fear towards those powerful beasts. That ferocious guy, why isn't he here yet? If he's here, I won't have to hide from those guys like this. The young man's eyes flickered, and the corners of his red lips curled up. Then, he looked helpless. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.